again, we're going to get started here shortly. We have, again, for everybody that saw this, it is up on our site, the FDHLounge.com. It is, of course, tonight, episode number 40 of The Lounge, our first time on Wednesday nights. To celebrate it, we're breaking format tonight. The entire show is our fantasy supergroup draft. We are all drafting rock bands here, not football teams, baseball teams, anything else. Rock bands, and we are being judged in our efforts here tonight. So I'm going to go through and introduce the cast of characters here. You heard myself, Jason, and Samantha get referenced there with the promos, but the full list of everybody that's here, of course, our producer on the lounge following us over to Wednesday nights here, where he's been producing for us already, Ryan Scott, one of our producers and co-hosts. In studio here with me, the cast of the On Tour music show here on the Sports Talk Network.
On Tour Rocks.
And as we go around here in clockwise order here, Matt Petrone, Anthony Petrone, Tony Mazer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And Anthony Petrone, of course, being the guy who hatched the idea for this episode here. We have a full bank of phone lines here tonight. We would normally encourage folks to give us a call, but a full bank tonight with everybody that's on with us here. So let's break it down from 1 through 4 here. On line number 1, happy to have joining us here tonight in a judging capacity, and this gentleman, of course, best known for his work. He's an accomplished drummer, best known for his work as a drummer with Boston presently, and that's where actually these guys, I think, went and saw them last summer. They were able to go down to Cincinnati,
sure enough,
and check that out. So on line 1, happy to have with us Jeff Neal. So we welcome him to the program here. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Oh, spectacular.
Good to have you in. On line 2, have another gentleman who is going to be judging here for us tonight, and somebody who is an expert in the field of drum therapy, a very accomplished drummer musician in his own right, somebody who, as I understand it, even prior to having judged us here tonight in this capacity, I was told by Anthony, is one of the voters for the Grammys, I think Anthony said.
That's what I've heard.
That's what you've heard, anyways. All right, so we're passing around urban legend here.
We can ask him when you hit the button.
He can set us straight if that's the case here. But very, very pleased to welcome to the show Pat Gesualdo. So, Pat, welcome to the program here tonight. Thank you for judging, sir.
Hey guys, how are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good to have you in that capacity. And on line 3 at this point, we have somebody who you would have heard here on STN a little bit earlier this evening here, the host along with Paul Belfi of Pro Wrestling Insider. I used to introduce my good buddy Mike Petak in that capacity as host just to rile up Belfi, but I'll use the same thing for Buck here. Buck Woodward joining us. Buck, welcome.
I'm still trying to figure out the rules of this thing. You threw me a couple of curveballs already. I got to do my whole lineup over again, and this is giving me a headache now.
If Paul would have paid attention when we told him, but
exactly.
That's just too easy.
Well, we're going to run through this again. We're going to reset this for everybody here at the outset. We will get to that. Of course, on line 4,
the Joneses.
From the FDH Western Home in Denver, Colorado, my partner, our senior editor, Jason Jones, and our entertainment editor at FDH, Samantha Jones. Guys, welcome to the program.
Hi, Rick.
Hey, Sam. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, that was an old ass intro we had for you there. I was very shocked to hear.
I've been married for damn near a year now, or over a year now.
Yeah, I know. I could have sworn we had a more current one in there. Well, something we'll have to work on. So
I'm just glad you got married, Sam. Jones is easier to say.
It certainly is.
I just want to mention, Rick, that as goes with any fantasy draft that I'm involved in, there may be a curveball or two, but we have audio evidence for those that aren't familiar with any of the picks that we have.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and we ask everybody as they go along here tonight to talk about their picks a little bit if they can. We'll do that and invite any comments that the judges would like to make as we go along here. In addition to getting a summation here at the end, I'm just going to go through first and talk about what everybody is going to be doing here as far as the composition of this draft. It is a standard Serpentine fantasy draft. We did a draw for position on the AM Mayhem show this morning. I'll go run through that order in a second here, but we have the lineup set. Everybody knows where they're going to be drafting in this thing. They either were there this morning or were listening or have been told. And everybody is out to assemble their ultimate supergroup of rock musicians here. And again, you could conceivably take folks from outside the field of rock and try and drop them into a band. We're not going to be purists here in this regard, and that's where some of the judging, I think, will come into play. There are some picks that could be rather kind of boom or bust as far as if you try to be adventurous here. But everybody has to put together one front man, one guitar, one bass, one drummer, and then you got 2 extra wild cards, and that can be anything. Extra singer, extra guitarist, horn player, tambourine, cowbell, whatever you want to do. Go crazy with it. Another drummer if you want. You could go wild with that there. The other 2 picks, but keep in mind that you're going to be judged, among other things, on cohesiveness here at the end of the night. And again, the concept that is throwing a curveball to some people here is the notion of picking guys who have not been in the same band previously to add to the challenge here. Because again, anybody can put together a cohesive band if they sit here and merely assemble something that's gone before. And it's not really fair to judge them against other super groups that are being compiled here tonight. So that's what we're going to be looking at here is who is able to do that, who is able to put together the best band. They're going to be rated 1 through 8 here at the end of the proceedings. I know that Pat is going to be officially judging us here tonight. Jeff, I think, is going to be on for as long as he can be on and offer some comments and some guidance along the way as it strikes him. Same thing with Pat. We welcome any contributions the judges would like to make as we go along here. Having basically set it up here at the outset, I'm just going to throw it open, and any additional questions that anybody may have, I can take them now.
Evidently not.
Yeah. Oh, it's dead or it's all alive, right? No dead people.
Yeah, that's the other part too. Yeah. It's got to be a thing. I'm glad you pointed that out, Buck. Yeah,
we don't see dead people.
It's got to be something where you could conceivably put together this group tomorrow if you had to. I mean, assuming everything can be worked out contractually. So if anybody's got, if anybody wants to take Jimi Hendrix, show up with evidence that he's still alive, he faked his death, and maybe we'll break some news on the show here tonight. But anything short of that, anything short of that, we don't need to go with it. It's all about.
Good to clarify.
Yes, exactly. It's in the realm of the plausible. In other words, here it's something that we could put together, and I know our gentlemen that are actually in the business, understand how tough it might be to do something contractually, but. We're just going to suspend our disbelief on that, but we can't suspend our disbelief as regards the afterlife. So they have to be folks that are still, carbon-based forms, could show up here tomorrow, conceivably, and we could put together these bands. So that's.
But then there's people who think Elvis can show up, though.
Yeah, exactly. And as Belfie said before, in the Pro Wrestling Insider, as far as he's concerned, the benefit of the doubt lies that he's dead rather than alive. But here's our rundown as far as the order goes. We drew for position this morning. Buck Woodward with the number 1 pick. Buck Woodward from the Pro Wrestling Insider show here on the Sports Talk Network. PWInsider.com. Buck Woodward in the first spot. Anthony Petrone picking second. Matt Petrone picking third. So each of them a near miss for the top ping pong ball here in the lottery. Rick Morris, am picking fourth. Paul Belfie has the 5th selection. Samantha Jones in the 6th spot. Samantha, who is carrying a lot of pressure in this event, because I have deemed her as our entertainment editor at FDH the favorite in this thing here. So she carries the mantle of the person to beat, in my estimation, and now has to live up to that. Jason Jones, our senior editor, picking 7th. Tony Mazer picking 8th. So
Jason could be a force to be reckoned with because Sam's been talking to him before this.
True.
So we've been talking about this now?
Yeah.
Let me just give you a quick analogy, Rick.
Okay.
This is like trying to help your son with a science fair project and finding out that your son can kick your ass at science.
Well, I got to ask you guys something. How many members are in Lincoln Park?
50.
Wait. There's 5?
Yeah.
5? 6?
7, 8,
So there's 6.
9.
Can only take one apiece, though, so keep that in mind.
All right,
I've got my plan. I'm ready.
Let's get this party started.
All right, everybody seems to be ready. Any final questions from anybody before we put Buck Woodward on the clock, which won't take long, because I know he's got a pick.
No,
ready.
I'm gonna do my best, guys. I'm having a real hard time with the audio as far as hearing you guys.
Okay,
clearly.
All right. Well, we'll see if there's anything can be done here on this end about that. First pick goes to Buck Woodward, and again, he's had a long time to think about this. I emailed him this morning and told him he was on the clock, so I'm ready for an earth-shattering pick here, Buck. I know you have one of great import to give us.
Oh, gee, now I got all this pressure on me to say something smart.
Yeah.
Come on, Buck, we love you.
First I did it to Sam, now I'm doing it to you.
Well, you know what? It's funny because my initial thought was to throw a front man up there, get somebody good to front the band. But then the more I thought about it, there's a lot of great front men, and there's a lot of great singers, and there's a lot of great guitarists. I'm thinking the rhythm section, it's going to be harder to put together that perfect rhythm section. So I'm actually, I might be wasting a first rounder here, but I'm going to go with my bass player first. And I'm picking Les Claypool of Primus as my bass player.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Somebody got snaked.
Great pick.
Les Claypool.
That's a great pick.
Guy's a monster.
And
I want to point out that's my bass player, not my front man.
Yes. All right. That's and that's the thing here too. Everybody needs to designate the picks as they go along. But the thing is, the reality is when you put together a band, these guys can be used in a number of roles. So there's what you are using them for your official spot, but I think you all also get the benefit of the doubt in the judging here, Buck, in terms of the versatility that carries with it. So that's a good pick. I think everybody seems to think that's a very good one right there. I almost thought for a moment my hero was perhaps going to be going when you were talking bass, but that's a very good pick. I can't argue with it. I'm sure he's going to be going shortly here. Anthony said, he told me previously he had a wild card for number 2.
I'm going with my wild card first because of Matt and Tony sitting next to me. I know this wild card's not going to make it. Not going to make it until I get another pick. So, my wild card, just because he can play so many instruments, just because he does so much, is Tom Scholz.
Tom Scholz, okay.
Well, somebody's sucking up here. I'm definitely not going to argue with that one.
What was that? Hey, did I just hear like a 7th rounder getting taken first? I didn't even. I'm assuming I didn't hear what I just heard.
A 7th rounder? Are you kidding me?
Can you repeat that, please?
Tom Scholz. Yeah, how about that? Good way to suck up to one of the judges here. Oh, you know what? Hey, who can argue?
We can stop this right now if you'd like.
No, that wasn't it, but I'll tell you what, and I'm sure Jeff can agree with me. And a lot of people don't know this, but Tom is a lot like Trent Reznor. Tom does. Trent Reznor's a lot like Tom. I'm sorry. Backward. Tom does all the instruments on the album, and then he brings a band to tour with him. So
No, seriously, I have no idea who we're talking about.
Tom Scholz
from Boston.
I know you're not a huge classic rock guy, Jason, but that's
Jason's lost. That's why he's lost.
Okay. Well, you're digging yourself in pretty deep with one of the judges here, Jason. So the phrase "quit while you're behind" comes to mind. But Tom Scholz, and I've been to see Boston in concert, and that's so allow me to suck up a little bit here myself. But great pick, for the versatility.
They had a really good drummer when I saw him live.
Everything that comes with it. Oh yeah. I'm not going to be as shameless as Anthony here, but no. I love Boston. One of the groups that's always been one of my favorites, and yeah, versatility. I mean, this guy brings it all with his pick. So interesting one. I wasn't thinking that when he said wild card because it's easy to pencil Tom Scholz into one spot or another. But using him as a utility player where you can put him anywhere is probably the way to go. Good thinking. Matt Patrone now with the third pick.
Well, I don't know what you were thinking there, Jason, when you said Tom Scholz who. Because that was going to be mine. But since Anthony took it, I'm going to have to go along the lines with Buck there, go for a bassist, and I'm going to take Michael Anthony.
Okay.
Because he's one of the big-name bassists out there that can play damn near anything. He can any style of music you want, he can do it, in my opinion. He's so versatile in his musical bass there. That's my pick, Michael Anthony.
Michael Anthony, and that could be triggering potentially an early run on bass players here, as Belfie Belfie is giving the salute through the glass here that he thinks Matt is number one. So,
well, he gave me half of the peace sign, you know.
Yeah. So I think we know who Belfie wanted out of Van Halen here, but a good pick. I'm on the clock here at number 4, and I have to say that my hand is getting forced here, and we're seeing a run here at a certain position, and I have to say that out of all of the positions we're talking about, I'm going to freely admit that my knowledge of the depth chart is the shallowest at base. So I'm going to use that as my justification to take somebody from my favorite band of all time, and somebody who also has some versatility here too. Could also use him for vocals at a certain point in time, and his vocals are maybe a little controversial. People either love him or they don't. I love him.
We all know who it is.
Here it is. Geddy Lee is my pick here. So I get to live out a dream.
Surprise!
I get to live out a dream by having Geddy Lee in my super group. So here we go. Living out the fantasy here. That's a first round pick. And again, if I waited till the next round for a bassist, A, I probably wouldn't have gotten him, and B, there's a couple of names here, but as far as cohesiveness, I don't know how they would have fit together. So.
Are you using him as bass?
I'm using him as bass, yeah. Exactly. So we've had 3 bassists out of the first 4 picks go. This takes us to number 5. Paul Belfie's on the clock.
I am going to select a guitar player that is everything that Edward Van Halen used to be, but better today, and that would be Joe Satriani as my guitar player.
Oh, send a curveball.
When he's not trying to sue Coldplay.
Yeah.
Coldplay ripped them off. What do you want?
Yeah, I'd sue him too.
I completely forgot about him.
Well, again, when you look at versatility, I think that's something that the judges probably would respect.
Joe Satriani can play any style, any genre of music. Mm-hmm. He's as fluid as Edward Van Halen was in his day, and in my opinion, he's equally innovative for today's player. My opinion.
I have a question. Can I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, he picked Joe Satriani. Is he allowed then to pick Sammy Hagar or any members of Chickenfoot later, since the album's not out yet?
Yes, I can, and yes, I might.
Wait a minute.
I'd have to say no, because that band has been announced. Now that the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah,
that band has been announced.
Controversy.
Have they recorded together?
They're working on it right now.
Is there a CD out yet? No. Therefore, I can, and I will. And screw you for taking my Michael Anthony pick.
Yeah, that didn't go over so well. The interesting thing here, picks 6 and 7, and it's going to be interesting to see how these bands shake out by the time it's done. My guess is that you're going to see probably picks 4, 6, and 7. My band, Samantha's band, Jason's band, probably having some similarities between them, possibly Tony among us as well here. That's just my thought, but the Joneses, it'll be very
Keeping up with the Joneses?
Yeah, very intriguing to see how it shakes out with them. As I said, I've already put the pressure on Samantha, our entertainment editor here, called her the leader in the clubhouse starting out. Let's see what your first pick is, Sam.
Well, like you said, my hand's going to be forced as well. I mean, my depth chart isn't deep at bass either. So I'm going to have to go with my bass pick first, and I'm going to go with Flea.
Okay.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
All right.
I'm glad I didn't go with that band.
Flea. And that'll... So we're already seeing, it's very, the parallels here between this and regular fantasy sports here. We're seeing a run on certain positions here. I certainly fed into it by taking a bass player here. Sam follows my lead, and I will be... very intrigued to see here. We're going to end the first round with the next 2 picks here, Jason and Tony, and then they'll start out the second round. So is this run on bass going to continue in their picks either now or coming up at the top of the second round here? Jason, you are now on the clock at number 7.
All right, Rick. I just want to give everyone fair warning. My squad is going to be put together in a idea of what I want the overall sound to be. So if I get snaked, everyone will hear it pretty clearly. And I'm going to be doing a lot of reaching. So we're going to start here with my wild card, one of them at least, and pick Zach Wilde.
Ooh.
He's your.
So he's not lead guitar. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
Really? Interesting pick.
Zach Wild. Okay.
You have him as a front man?
He's the wild card. I think the rhythm guitarist.
So he can.
Okay, just playing rhythm guitar. Okay.
Yeah, that's wow. That's very interesting, and you obviously are confident, Jason. When you spoke to me off air before, you had another wild card pick in mind that was going to be something that was probably going to take some explanation as far as the number of roles you were going to use him in. You must be pretty confident that guy is still going to be on the board.
Well, the gentleman I was talking about then, I don't think I'm going to go with now, but I will say that my other wild card pick, I'm pretty confident I can wait until my dead last pick.
Okay.
And it will take some explanation. There's only one other person on this entire panel, aside from people in the room I'm sitting in, who would know what that is.
Okay.
Who that person is. So we're going to sit and wait on that guy for quite a while.
All right, we're going to leave it there. And with the 8th pick, the final pick of the first round, and also to start the second round, Tony Mazer.
Well, I see a lot of people picking the bass guitarists and their wild cards right now, but that gives me the opportunity to pick mine. I'm going for a guy who transcends probably about 3 different generations. My dad, who's 52, thinks he's got a great voice, and my brother, who is 17 years old, loves his voice. So he spans about 40 years. And I'm going with the former lead singer of Soundgarden, former lead singer of Audioslave, former lead singer of Temple of the Dog, and is out solo right now, Chris Cornell.
Total snakeration.
Yeah.
Front man or wild card?
I'm going with the front man.
All right. Front man, and that takes care of your qualification there at that position, your requirement. Wow, that's very interesting.
Doesn't sound happy.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of us that might have had our eye on that guy there. I don't. I got a couple guys sorted together, and mine kind of runs along a number of subgenres of rock, but that's one of the guys I was looking at. I ended the first round here. Before we get to Tony's first pick of the second round, I'm just going to recap the first round here. We started off with Buck taking Les Claypool to satisfy the bass requirement. Anthony took Tom Scholz to be a wild card. Michael Anthony was selected by Matt for bass. I took Geddy Lee for bass, playing into the run on bass players right there. Paul Belfi took Joe Satriani on guitar. Samantha went for Flea at bass. Zach Wild was Jason's pick as a wild card, and Chris Cornell to be the first frontman picked by Tony. Any thoughts from either of the judges before we move into round two? Round one was wide open, just like we thought it would be.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Very jealous of Tony right now.
No, I was just thinking.
Run on bases here.
Out of all,
People trying
I think
to look like they're
awesome
trying to solidify the rhythm section here.
Yeah, that's there's a lot that was kind of interesting here. If half of the first round ended up being bass players, and that's I guess I wasn't the only one. I heard it commented by some other participants that that might have been their sort of weakest place on their depth chart as far as knowledge of bass players went. So that probably drove it. My guess is that's going to continue to drive it as we go through here. Tony, why don't you make the first pick, round two?
Now this is I'm going to go with the guitarist here. Okay. Lead guitarist, because a lot of people will pick your top tier. I'm not going to give out any names because I'll probably help some people out. But I'm going to go with the guy who's very underrated, still underrated, from one of my favorite bands of all time, and I know a lot of people have listened to them, and if you don't know them, you've definitely heard one of their songs. I'm going with Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains.
Okay. Interesting.
That is an interesting pick.
Seattle
Not who I thought he was going to go with.
Well, the interesting thing is, as you look at this here, Buck, and I was joking about this before, but I did actually follow through with this, trying to span the genres here tonight, pairing the Dokken T-shirt with the flannel shirt. The flannel shirt is the way that Tony's going as far. Yeah. Hey, it was a good music scene. What can you say? Cornell and Cantrell at this point, 1-2. That's some real talent right there. The most contemporary looking of any of the teams thus far at this point, no question. Second pick right now for Jason. He had Zach Wild in the first round.
Well, as I said, there's one participant here who I'm very much afraid of. But since there's no trades, I can skip that pick before we come back to him. That should be a big hint as to who that person is.
Okay.
So just on the off chance that I'm not going to get him because somebody's thinking as crazily about this as I am, I am going to go with, you could call it a wild card, but in the kind of pick, but he's going to be the bass player, Bootsy Collins.
Wow.
Well, which is it? Is he your bass player or is he your wild card?
He's a bass player. It's just a wild card of a pick, though.
That's just how he's characterizing it. Okay. It's
Bootsy and Zach.
Yeah.
That's
an interesting sound right there.
Really odd.
Well, hey,
I'll give it to him.
We'll see what the judges think. You never know. I wouldn't presume to know what.
Yeah. What is Jeff? What do you think about this pick?
I'm trying to see how they're going to fit Groove is in the Heart and the Aussie set at some point. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but boy, that would be fantastic to see that amalgamation be pulled off.
What about you, Pat? What do you think?
As far as which one I'd have to pick, I'd say Bootsy.
No, how well they fit, Pat.
Yeah, what do you think of the fit?
Bootsy Collins.
What was that?
About how well they fit together, Zach Wild and Bootsy Collins.
Yeah, I think, it'd be interesting, but I think it would work because Zach's pretty versatile.
He is. He is, and I'm not sure that he's as versatile as you are diplomatic, Pat, but that's... It's an interesting pairing, no question about it. We'll stay in the Jones household for the third pick of the second round. Our entertainment editor, Samantha Jones, she's got Flea on bass with the first round pick.
All right, I got to go with pure skill on the drum set here. I'm gonna take a page out of your book and go with Neil Peart.
Okay. A little bit of an upset that the guy lasted until the second round here, I have to say.
I expected him to go first round.
For somebody who gets a lot of pound for pound love out there, that's interesting to me that he lasted as long. But again, first drum player to go, so maybe not an upset in that way. People were just waiting a little bit on drums, and I would be sitting here screaming about getting. Snaked were it not for the fact that I have Geddy Lee and I'm ineligible to take somebody else from Rush, but great pick there. And as somebody who's sat through a number of YYZ solos here at concerts, just a great one. I can't think that anybody would find that pick controversial in the least. Somebody who just oozes controversy from every pore of his being is our own Paul Belfi. With the how's that for a segue? They taught me that at Segway School. Paul Belfi with the fourth pick of the second round. He has Joe Satriani as his first round pick.
And joining him on stage will be my bass player, Billy Sheehan.
Ooh.
Say that again?
Billy Sheehan is the bass player. So that's he's taking care of the rhythm section there all in one fell swoop. So that
he's doing a more expensive version of Van Halen, I think. That was an interesting one right there. I have to say he was kind of overlooked in my book. That's a good pick, but it wasn't one I would have thought. I expect that to happen a fair amount tonight, where there are guys that it wouldn't necessarily occur to me, but where I say that they probably should have been on my list. Somebody who I must say, actually, I've seen in concert by dint of Mr. Big opening for Rush back in the day. Good concert out at the old Coliseum here. So Billy Sheehan is the next pick. Comes back to me now for the fifth pick of round two, and we'll be taking just a note here ahead. We're going to be doing a couple more picks and then taking a break here at the top of the third round. I've got Geddy Lee on bass. I'm looking ahead here for who I want to take at any other positions here. And as I look at this, I
I think I'm going to go drums myself, and I'm going to go for a pick here in terms of versatility. That does seem to be the name of the game here. And a gentleman who's actually played some different genres, not just in rock music, has moved into jazz subsequently, but Steve Smith, formerly of Journey, and who was once a guest on the FDH Lounge show. Not that I'm biased in that way or anything, but let's just say, the interview opened my eyes a little bit here. And he's played with Buddy Rich's group, or the group that he played with, I should say, Buddy's Buddies. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, but anyways, regardless if I mangled the name there or not, that shows you a high level of respect to sit in with those guys. So Steve Smith is going to be my second round pick. And I'm sure that pick is going to be much better than my Steve Smith second-round pick in fantasy football this year. I'm sure that it's going to work out much better for me than that. That early suspension really hurt me, let me tell you. All right, the third last pick of the second round. You've got Matt Petrone up. He had Michael Anthony on base in the first round.
Well, I also had Steve Smith on my list, so you didn't really snake me but I had him as a backup.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and go for my lead guitarist right now. And I'm going to go for somebody that, they just started touring again. My opinion, a very phenomenal lead guitarist, and Brian May.
Brian May, okay. You know what? And that's another one where I should have had him on my list here, and I didn't. But, you mentioned him, and I can't even argue with you at all. I mean, that's a great pick right there. He shows up on a lot of these top guitarist picks out there. And an inspired choice, I have to say, too, I think, for the way that Queen decided to carry on here. From what I hear, they're sounding pretty good in concert these days. So Brian May, Michael Anthony, Matt has rounded out the obligatory part of his rhythm section right here. He still has some wild card picks available. Speaking of wild cards, Anthony Petrone used his first round pick for a wild card, choosing to use
suck up.
Yes. Well, you know what, Buck? Let's say partially to suck up.
I will have to say to my defense, that was planned before Jeff was committed to joining us.
Yeah.
On the other hand, my other drummer would have been Jeff Neal.
Very good. Very, very good. Tom Schultz was the first round pick. Anthony, you still have another wild card pick if you want to open your draft with your two wild cards.
I'm going bass.
Okay.
Simply because I just don't know. There's a possibility he could be there, but I'm going to go ahead and go with him right now. Jack Blades.
Jack Blades, okay.
That's a good pick. You can have him singing, too.
Right.
That's true.
You'll notice a theme with my band, Buck.
Of course.
You know what? Of all the people here tonight to hatch a diabolical plot, I'm sure Anthony would have been last on our list. And yeah, very good. And yet, here he is. He's bringing it out. We talk about this in regular fantasy sports on the FantasyDraftHelp.com Insider here, which is now a part of the FDH Lounge show. We talk about that in baseball. Respect my eligibility, multi-eligible position guys in baseball. Somebody like a Mark DeRosa that can play 3 spots in your lineup. Anthony's building this band that way. What do you know?
Wasn't that how you had Kevin Durant? He could be a center, he could be a point guard, he could be a frickin' forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, P.J. Carlissimo, he would have played him at Peanut Vendor if he'd gotten a chance before they whacked him.
Sincerely, Latrell Sprewell.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he's off hanging with Sprewell's family right about now. We're going to go to Buck Woodward. We're going to go through his last pick of the second round and his first pick of the third round before we go to our break here. So you're going to have a chance here. Let's start off here with the first year 2 picks here, Buck. You've got Les Claypool on bass. You actually started our little bass run that we had in the first round here, and so you've satisfied your need to have somebody do that in your band. What are you looking at for the first year 2 picks?
Well, since I get 2 back-to-back, this is where strategy kind of plays in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I'm going to go with my lead guitarist.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to surprise at least one person who thinks he has me all figured out. But I'm going to go with Kirk Hammett of Metallica as my lead guitarist.
Pretty. Okay.
The thought was, I was thinking...
Next pick.
I was thinking Satriani, but then I figured somebody was going to pick him, and Paul did. So we go with the student of Satch, and a really ripping lead guitar player. So I'm going with Kirk Hammett, and I think it'll blend well with Les Claypool. And then I'm going to go for my first pick of the third round. I'm going to go with a wild card.
Okay.
And my thought process on the wild card is I want a guy who can play more than one instrument, can do more than one thing, because I'm not quite sure how he's going to fit in depending on who I get for my other pick. So I'm going to go with a guy who can play drums, who can play guitar, who can sing lead. I'm going with Dave Grohl as my wild card pick.
Nice.
Dave
like
Grohl. There is no question he would have gone somewhere here, and somewhere probably very soon as this draft went along here. So
let me point out that the Foo Fighters, one of my favorite bands. I've seen them a bunch of times. But and then you hear Dave Grohl is the drummer in Nirvana and everything. But if you listen to the Queens of the Stone Age album, Songs for the Deaf, he plays the drums there. He is excellent. It's my favorite album of all time, one of them at least, and. He just completely tears it up. So I suggest everybody listen to that. Very melodic.
Let me just interject one real quick thought, since
Sure.
I'm probably dead last on the hierarchy of musically profound thinkers of this group. I'm just going to say that through the first 2 rounds and 1 pick, I like Buck's team a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
He's got some guys that can really rip it there. There's no question about it. You start off with everything Les Claypool can do with the first pick here. Kurt Hammett with the second one, very defined skill set as well. Dave Grohl, the versatility, and it's shaping up to be a very interesting team. We come to the top of the hour here, and at this point, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap again the picks that have gone thus far before we buttonhole the judges here for some thoughts. We've got first pick overall, Les Claypool on bass went to Buck. From there, Tom Schultz, wild card, Michael Anthony bass, Geddy Lee bass, Joe Satriani guitar, Flea on bass, Zach Wild was the wild card, fittingly, and Chris Cornell frontman. Second round, Tony paired up Chris Cornell with Jerry Cantrell on guitar. Jason paired up Zach wild card with Bootsy Collins on bass. Samantha put Flea and Neil Peart together. Paul took Billy Sheehan to go with Joe Satriani. I put Steve Smith together with Geddy Lee. Matt went with Brian May to go along with Michael Anthony. Anthony's pick was Jack Blades, following Tom Schultz, and then Buck thus far, Les Claypool, Kurt Hammett, Dave Grohl. Get some thoughts from the judges, and I know that we've come to the time, that we're able to have Jeff on. So we appreciate Jeff having been on for this hour with us here. And any closing thoughts, Jeff, on what you've heard thus far with these groups?
Well, I got to be honest with Buck's kind of advantage here at this point of being able to pick the third, round here. That's a really interesting mix. I mean, I'd like to kind of see what some of the, what all the other participants would have picked for their third one. But, just simply based on that lineup, I would take big money to go see that show, because there's going to be so many bodies flying around the stage at that particular show if you had that particular lineup of Claypool, Hammett, and Grohl. I mean, that is just a massively high-energy set. I mean, I'm not saying that some of the others aren't, but that's a real intriguing lineup. And then, I'm looking across the board here. Paul had 2 picks there with Satch and Billy Sheehan. I mean, that totally makes sense. It's almost like the reincarnation of going back to, when Steve Vai kind of teamed up with Billy Sheehan back with, Diamond Dave. So, I mean, there's some really interesting kind of matches and mixes here. Some great musicianship, basically, with Geddy Lee and Steve Smith, Flea and Neil Peart, Wild Abandon on the bass with, just methodical, just totally intense drumming. And then Jason with Zach Wild and Bootsy. Dude, that's all over the board. So, some great choices here. And, of course, my hat's off to Anthony, because between, Tom Schultz and Jack Blades, you've got great instrumentalist all the way around, great songwriter, and Jack Blades, basically, who's a great bass player and a phenomenal singer. It's too tough to call at this point, but there's some really interesting picks, and it's kind of interesting to see how things are kind of lining up here.
really versatile band. The Foundation, anyways, probably the most versatile one yet from Anthony. We thank you for your thoughts and for your time, Jeff. Before we go to our break here, let's get some thoughts from you also, Pat, on how you see things shaping up.
I'll tell you, I'm really digging that Billy Sheehan Satriani mix.
Yeah, I mean that's the nucleus right there of a pretty darn good group, no question about it. Anybody else really kind of jumping out at you?
Yeah, I kind of. Who is with Kirk Hammett?
Oh, that's Buck's team. Buck's the judge's darling thus far, I guess. Les Claypool, Kurt Hammett, Dave Grohl that he's got there.
Yeah, that's kind of tight too. But I think I'm going more towards Billy Sheehan and Joe.
All right, well, early leader, and at this point, Pat will be giving some of the official scoring as we move ahead later on.
That's a good pick.
All right, welcome back to the program, everybody. Hour 2 of the FDH Lounge. To celebrate our move to Wednesday nights, we are breaking format here. Our entire show is our first annual Fantasy Supergroup Draft. 8 of us are drafting the ultimate rock bands here and submitting to the judging here. I want to give a shout out, speaking of judging here, at the outset, the website being www.dadprogram.org. That's dadprogram.org. Drums and disabilities. It's a slip of the tongue. Drums and disabilities. Dadprogram.org. Pat Gesualdo, outstanding drummer, activist as far as disabilities and the use of music to address that. It's our pleasure to have you on as a judge here tonight. Pat, if you would, please take a moment, talk about your group, what you're trying to accomplish with it, and some of the programs.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. The Dad program, Mayor Bloomberg helped me launch originally in the New York City schools to help children fight disabilities such as autism and other disabilities.
And I see that from your site that you've had a lot of different entities that have been a part of this. I see also, and I find it very interesting because we've got one of our participants, Buck Woodward, from PWInsider.com, and from our Pro Wrestling Insider show here on Sports Talk Network. I see that WWE and their superstars have been some of the folks who've worked in conjunction with your group.
Yeah, it's Trish Stratus and Booker T at the time, and the WWE's been great. The New York Giants, the New Jersey Nets. It's all about reaching as many children and their parents and teachers as possible. And of course, Lisa there on the show too, and everybody at Sports Talk has been such a great supporter too. And I hugely appreciate all your support, guys. And we're looking at doing an event too, which at some point, I think in the spring possibly, and I'm really looking forward to being there with you guys.
Oh, excellent. Really looking forward to that. And that would really be something that I know the station will love to put its promotional weight behind. That sounds really interesting here. The teams that we've got thus far here, Anthony Petrone is up with his next pick. We are going with this is now the third pick of the third round. Anthony thus far has picked Tom Scholz for his wild card pick, Jack Blades for his base pick. And just a quick recap for anybody who wasn't on previously here, you have to have one guitarist, one bass player, one frontman, one drummer, and then 2 wild cards to use as you see fit as we go through this thing here. Anthony's already used one of his wild card picks here. There have only been 2 wild cards overall that have been picked. Zach Wild was picked by Jason, Tom Scholz by Anthony. So he's got.
I had a wild card too.
It really? Dave Grohl. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
my bad.
Nobody's paying attention to Buck.
Yeah, I'm thinking drums when I'm thinking Dave Grohl. But no, that's right. Yeah, I'm looking at the WC on my draft board here. Duh. So yeah, Dave Grohl also. So actually so you're not so special, Anthony. We've had 3 people take wild cards. Yeah. So all right, Jack Blades, Tom Scholz. I think that re-immerses us here. So
I'm going to go with a gentleman that I have seen live as lead guitar.
Okay.
Phenomenal lead guitar. I've sat and watched him. He amazed me when I saw him live.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton. All right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Anthony comes alive with that pick here. So Peter Frampton, that's for guitar, you said, right?
Anthony, I love your way, baby.
Yeah. That's for guitar, you said?
Guitar.
Okay.
Not singer.
I have no idea why you guys are healing on Peter Frampton. That guy was an innovator on the guitar back in the day. He's
wow.
I mean, he's pretty much irrelevant now, but
And if
back in the day.
Well, see, I'm looking at how they fit, and if you've ever sat
and I agree. It's with his ability.
And if you've ever sat and watched him live, it's phenomenal.
Not only that, too, and they've got it on YouTube. The commercial that he did, I don't remember if it was for Geico or Progressive or which company. The commercial he did was just awesome. The one where he's interpreting the woman, that was classic. All right, Frampton to go with Blades and Shoals, staying with the theme of versatility. We're all sort of drawing, not all of us necessarily, but some of us are drawing teams with certain distinct themes. Bands with distinct themes. For Anthony, it's versatility. Everybody in there can do, 10 different things with 10 different fingers, apparently.
And they fit very well.
Yeah, so that's his team. Matt Patrone is up next. Michael Anthony on bass. Brian May on guitar. He's got the mandatory parts of his rhythm section in place right now.
I think I'm going to add to that rhythm section with a wild card on this pick. I'm not too worried about anybody else on my list getting picked. Because the way I see things going here, so I'm going to take this one. I think he's going to be the one I got to worry about the most, and go with Aerosmith's Joe Perry.
Joe Perry,
on a wild card.
I think Joe Perry is extremely overrated.
Wow.
I think he's underrated, actually.
Okay, did you play the Aerosmith Guitar Hero?
Yes, I did.
How easy was that game? It was the same 4 notes over and over again.
You're comparing Guitar Hero to what he actually plays? Are you nuts? Come on, it's Joe freaking Perry.
Actually sit and listen to his guitar parts. It's the same phrase over and over again.
Hey, Sam, that's probably because it's a plastic guitar with 4 buttons, and all you got to do is strum it.
I'm getting the point.
As somebody who's never played Guitar Hero, I'm loving this discussion. I'm learning a lot about it, I feel like.
No, it's not the point that the Guitar Hero was easy. It's the same part over and over again in every song. It's very uninteresting.
I don't hear it.
I don't think so.
Wow.
I disagree.
This is why this is hard, because music is that subjective.
It is, and it's going to be very interesting. We get to the end here to get Pat's takes on how these are coming together. I got the next pick here. I've got Geddy Lee on bass, Steve Smith on drums, and I'm trying to get guys here who I think can adapt to a number of different styles here. Certainly, Steve Smith exemplifies that as a guy who's moved out of rock altogether and now does jazz. For a guitar player, I'm looking around here for who I think can fit this type of theme. There are more famous names perhaps available at this point, and I did think about 1 or 2 of them. But the 4 words that caught my eye, Tokyo Metropolitan Symphony Orchestra. And that leads me in the direction of Steve Vai, who's going to be my guitar player. He's a guy who I think can go any number of directions. I get the thumbs up from Belfie here. He sees what I'm trying to accomplish. So Steve Vai. Yeah. Steve Vai joining Steve Smith and Geddy Lee. Sam, Steve Vai, not overrated, correct?
Not overrated. Good pick.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our guitar correspondent.
Yeah, that was a quality. You snaked me. I was hoping to get Steve Vai in the next round, but that was probably wishful thinking that he'd fall to the 4th round. Nice job.
Thank you. Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. Wow.
That would have been sweet.
Whew.
Well, that would have been.
That would have been.
But it's not happening now.
Hey, Buck, if I would have had Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, that would have been vicious and delicious. But since it's my turn to pick, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for me to get a front man for my supergroup. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I could only think of one vocalist with the range, the power, and the capacity to do justice to Billy Sheehan and Joe Satriani guitar section, and that man would be Ronnie James Dio.
Oh, nice.
I thought you were about to follow it up with shoobity-boop, biddity-bop. Yeah. Ronnie James Dio, okay. That I didn't see that one coming. I thought you were going to go another direction.
That's a damn good
one. I saw him picking that one later.
Okay.
Good pick, Belfie.
I thought we were going to talk about Jesse's girl.
Yeah.
Why? She's irrelevant like Rick Springfield.
Oh. Belfie healing on Rick Springfield. Wow.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, look, I dig the music, and he's a good guy. He takes care of us here at the station when we do the stuff that we do, but come on.
Hey, Paul, when are your friends going to stop sending Christmas cards to you?
When Christmas is over.
Evidently. And,
that's a weird question to ask in the beginning of December.
Well,
yeah. It's probably going to be driven by the calendar. That's just my guess.
We'll see.
All right, so that's Satriani, Sheehan, and Dio, the picks for Paul. We come now to the FDH entertainment editor, Samantha Jones, who has Flea on bass, and Neil Peart, the great Neil Peart, on drums thus far.
You know, I was looking at lead guitarists, and we have a pretty big list for guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
So I was looking for someone who can do a lot of different things, you know, do some new stuff with a guitar. So I'm going to go with Tom Morello
Okay.
of Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave.
Boo. I like Tom Morello, but he's got to stop talking about his putting his 2 cents in. We're raging against the machine, man. Shut up. It's not 1992
Shut up
anymore.
and play the guitar.
Hey, back to that Guitar Hero thing, man. He was one of the easiest ones to beat in the battles.
Negatory points then, I guess. I don't know.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure this out. Now, Joe Perry, you give him a guitar, he can make music. Can Tom Morello make music without 500 stomp boxes and, 15 electric gizmos attached to his guitar?
And so our wrestling dynamic is shaping up for the night here with Buck Woodward on one side and Samantha Jones on the other. Flea, Neil Peart, and Tom Morello right there.
Yeah, maybe we can ask our wrestling friends who's a bigger anti-American, Tom Morello or the Iron Sheik?
My vote is Tom Morello.
Hold on. In Tom Morello's defense, he's all about the USA because he's one of the most capitalist rock stars I know. So.
Oh, man.
Actually, in all honesty, we're ripping on it, but if you look, Samantha's lineup kind of makes sense here. She's going with kind of like a progressive lineup.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's got kind of that old school progressive vibe to it, even if the guys themselves aren't that old school, aside from Neil Peart. We come now to what can only be called the most eclectic pairing we've seen thus far. Jason Jones, FDH senior editor, with Zach Wilde on wild card, and Bootsy Collins on bass. I shudder to think where the third pick's going. Jason?
Rick, not only should you shudder, but you're not even seeing this one coming. But I'm going to extend this silly analogy a step further. Joe Perry on Guitar Hero, whatever. Tom Morello on Guitar Hero, whatever. The point I'm trying to make here is my pick for lead guitar is so good that these nerds that spend day after day after day trying to play that game to perfection still can't do this. And before I give you his name, I'll give you a little help.
I can't even hear that.
I know who he's talking about. Oh, what is his name?
I can't even hear that.
I hear it. It's the end.
It sounds like an organ
It's
grinder.
the end song on Guitar Hero.
Oh, what is his name?
Because I thought about it.
We give up.
I got nothing.
For those of you who either couldn't hear or don't know what that is Herman Lee of Dragon Force, arguably, very debatably, the fastest and most badassest guitar player on the planet.
That is, yeah.
I agree. He's one I thought of.
Yngwie Malmsteen says hi. But
I would give it more to Jason with Herman Lee on that over
think
Yngwie.
so. Okay, well, Herman Lee, yeah. I mean,
Fast.
he certainly is. He certainly is, and you're putting something together there. Certainly, Zach Wilde, Bootsy Collins, Herman Lee. It's like
We'll know more in 3 rounds.
it's like an abstract painting. Yeah, I think we'll have a better idea as we go along here at some point. I'm sure. I hope. But very intriguing thus far. No question about it. Tony Mazer now with Chris Cornell and Jerry Cantrell satisfying the frontman and guitar picks thus far. And two guys, as has been pointed out, and I'm not sure we've seen a whole lot of this here tonight, but two guys pretty congruent in terms of genre. So if you're looking for chemistry, how they're going to play together, whatever, same scene, same time, same whatever. I'll be interested to see if picks 3 and 4 adhere to this as well.
Yes, they will. I'm going to go with my pick. I'm going to go with a drummer. He was the drummer for Alanis Morissette's first album, Jagged Little Pill, and he was tapped by Dave Grohl saying, "Hey, do you want to be a member of the Foo Fighters?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm going with Taylor Hawkins.
Good pick.
Taylor Hawkins. So you've got
It's
another...
actually on my board.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah.
If you go to a Foo Fighters show, now again, I bring up my dad, and I'm going to say this because a lot of Clevelanders know what I'm talking about, but my dad listens to what we once called MMS music. And so basically 70s rock, album-oriented rock. But when we were at the Foo Fighters show, he was working security. He's like, "Wow, who's that drummer for Foo Fighters?" I'm like, "That's Taylor Hawkins." He's like, "Wow, is he good?" And what do you know? I'm picking him here in the 3rd round.
Okay.
He's the second best drummer in the Foo Fighters. I got the first.
Very nice. But again, in terms of how this is in terms of how everything's going to gel, Tony's making a very aggressive move here because he's got guys where it's pretty easy to picture these guys playing together. We don't necessarily have to extrapolate the way that we do with some of these other guys. So it's a very interesting, very defined strategy. And you said actually both those picks were going to be the same way.
Yep, and the next one for the first pick of the 4th round, I'm going with the bass guitarist from Stone Temple Pilots, Robert DeLeo.
Wow.
Now, see, the one thing about bass guitarists, we look on here, we see Geddy Lee, we see Flea, we see Les Claypool. They're very dynamic bass guitarists. But then it gets to that point where, because that's that top tier, but then it gets to the point where a bass guitarist is nothing more than someone who just keeps up with the band, has good sound. But if you listen to Stone Temple Pilots, you can hear Robert DeLeo really just go at it. You can hear he was an inspiration for me to get into start playing bass guitar, and you just got to listen to it and you'll hear it. So I'm going Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots and the short-lived supergroup known as Army of Anyone.
I love that pick personally, just because, as I said before, I mean, Rush is my favorite, but Stone Temple Pilots and Linkin Park are right there. So I love that pick. That's a great pick, Robert DeLeo on bass. So I don't have a vote in this thing, but I love that one personally for whatever minute amount that is worth. Come back around now to Jason. Zakk Wylde, Bootsy Collins, Herman Lee. Let's see the 4th brush stroke in this abstract painting here, Jason.
Well, there are still quite a few frontmen left that I like. However, if there's a run on them stylistically, I might be stuck with something that doesn't fit.
Okay.
So, although there's still 2 more major elements to this, I'm going to go ahead and get my frontman. He had to be able to scream with the best of them, and I know most people on this panel probably couldn't care less about that. But he has to have great vocal range. I don't care if you like what he looks like, but I'm going with Linkin Park's own Chester Bennington.
Chester Bennington, okay. And for reasons that I don't even need to get into, because I just talked about my 3 favorite groups there, I love that one. So as your front man, yeah, that talk about that, Sam. What kind of snakeage was there on that pick?
Actually, we had a long conversation over who would get which Linkin Park member, and I've got a plan for some of them later on, so okay. I let him have Chester.
All right. Well, that's not the kind of collusion we tolerate in an actual fantasy sports draft, but that...
I didn't even do that.
Yeah.
See,
there's someone else that I wanted more.
Okay.
See, the thing, though, Jason has to watch who he picks, because the missus, if she gets mad, he's in trouble.
Yeah, well...
You're sleeping on the couch tonight.
It's interesting. I mean, out of the 8 of us, we have 2 sets of, relatives here in this thing, so it's very interesting. No collusion on the one end. The Joneses, however,
and
apparently...
what's funny is we're both back-to-back. Me and Matt back-to-back. Sam and Jason back-to-back.
That's true.
Yeah, well, Jason has said that he doesn't know the first thing about half these people, so I had to help him somewhere.
That's true. That's true.
That would explain why he put Bootsy with Zach Wilde.
Exactly. That was all him.
Hey, he may get the last laugh. He may win this thing. You never know. But that's
I'll be last.
just some of the individual combinations too. Not just Zach Wilde and Bootsy. How about Bootsy and Chester Bennington? I mean,
I know.
Isn't that kind of mind bending? You know, it's
my mind is completely boggled.
Is Chester going to do the vocals on Grooves in the Heart? I mean, there's okay.
One of these four is not like the other. One of these four.
Sam is going to wake up in the middle of the night tonight and just look at him and go, what the hell were you thinking?
It's okay, I'll smack him around later.
This is great. An interesting team here. Well, Samantha, who I put the pressure on ahead of time, who I proclaimed as our favorite, she's our FDH Entertainment Editor. Flea on bass, Neil Peart on drums, Tom Morello on guitar. It's a very solid backbone of the band thus far. You've got everything but your front man and your 2 wild cards, Sam.
And I'm going to do one of those wild cards right now because there seems to be a little run on this band. But, you know, he's extremely versatile. He can sing, he can play guitar, he can play the keyboards, he can rap, he can do anything else, he can DJ. I'm going with Mike Shinoda.
Yep.
I thought about that one myself, and that's the one. I mean, I know that he's done the stuff with the stuff that he did with Fort Minor, but my only thought here in terms of trying to put this together, you had more guts than I did, because I'm looking at this like in the context of a super group. Would it be too evocative of Linkin Park? Would it make you? Is he too associated maybe with that because they're so unique with everything that they do, with everything he brings to them? So clearly, you're taking that chance there that the band could get its own identity with him in there.
Yeah, I'm thinking him more as like the keyboard player, maybe another guitar if they so choose, I guess.
Okay.
But mostly is probably keyboards.
Well, clearly,
he's pretty amazing on the piano.
Oh, he is. He can definitely work the instruments, but I'm sure you were thinking of it also, everything that he can add with doing a little bit of the rapping with some of the lyrical stuff also, too. But yeah, no,
he can do so many things that he's just he's a wild card, you can put him anywhere and he'll be fine.
Exactly. He's multi-talented. That's again, 3 picks in a row from among my favorite bands here, STP and then Linkin Park.
Sam, I'm surprised you didn't preface your pick by saying "Remember the name."
Yeah, not funny.
I know.
Yeah.
I tried. Come on now.
I'm guessing Paul is going to put an end to the whole thing here of picking guys for my favorite bands, but just a guess on my part.
Let me give you a little background on the drummer for my super group. Used to play with Vanilla Fudge.
I was going to say Vanilla.
I'm on the Wikipedia page, and I can't change the dates or anything on this one. Played with Rod Stewart, Stanley Clarke, Ted Nugent, Pink Floyd, Ozzy Osbourne. His influences include Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, along with extensive classical training, and he's meticulous as hell as a drummer. Ladies and gentlemen, and some of his other supergroups that he's played with include King Cobra and Blue Murder. My drummer, ladies and gentlemen, Carmine Appice.
Okay.
Great drummer. All the young people have no idea who he is, but
I know
drummer.
that's why you hear a collective "huh" out of the air studio. But our esteemed judges know exactly who Carmine Appice is, and he is a perfect fit for my supergroup.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Paul Belfi having done a little more research than I thought he was going to do for this thing here. So,
Pat, you being a drummer, what do you think about that pick?
I think that's great. But I do have to say, though, the Sheehan, Satch, and Dio sounds like a heavy metal law firm.
Very nice, Pat.
Does the law firm defend against dog bites?
Hey, you know what, Pat? I just wonder too. What would they dress like in the courtroom? Would it be jean vests as part of their 3-piece suit?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Oh, okay. I'm up for my next pick here, and I'm looking here in terms of, again, versatility. I've already got one guitar player, and the beauty of it is, as I look at that guitar player and the guy who's going to be the first of my 2 wild card picks, I don't honestly know who would be the lead guitarist. My guess is they would switch back and forth. I see them as being pretty interchangeable because I see variety in terms of being able to handle things as being part of the identity of this supergroup here. Technically, Steve Vai fills my guitar position here. In my wild card position, similarly, I am going for Mr. Cliffs of Dover, Eric Johnson, to join the band here also, and be the other virtuoso here in the rhythm section. So Geddy Lee on bass, Steve Smith on drums, Steve Vai on guitar, Eric Johnson on wild card, but realistically that would be perhaps co-lead guitar. So yeah, I am liking how that's coming together here so far.
I think Rick's the team to beat right now.
Really?
I got to kind of agree. Because I'm seeing a lot of these picks going on here, and you're picking one of the bands that I had put together.
Wow.
Damn near to the T.
Really? Really? I know how hard Matt worked to prepare for this thing. I'm feeling good right now.
Anybody that's watching
confident.
the video, this is Matt's preparation for this.
Yeah, look at that.
I work
Both sides.
I work by myself in a building with just a radio for 9 hours a day. So I put a little bit into this. I'm probably going to lose. So
he did all that, and I'm snaking his team thus far. I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
One of my teams.
That's very good.
One
all
of
right.
my teams.
He's got
All right.
15 teams.
All right. Well, hey, don't rain on my parade. I'm feeling good right about now.
15 teams, it still doesn't equal the amount of people who've played an Iron Butterfly in Warren.
Hey, leave the cuz out of this. All right. Speaking of Matt, he's got on his team thus far, on the team he's drafting tonight, actually, as opposed to any hypothetical ones. Michael Anthony on bass, Brian May on guitar, Joe Perry as his wild card. Take it away, fourth pick, Matthew.
I do got to say, I've been loving the picks here. I've been surprised by a lot of them, and I'm surprised I haven't been seeing too much toe-stepping here. And except for Anthony taking Tom from me and me taking Michael Anthony from Paulie there, so everybody's playing nice. But on drums, for me, he's, in my opinion, he's another one that's kind of underrated. And I'm kind of tossed now that he hasn't been taken yet. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Cardilone from Damn Yankees.
Okay. Michael Cardilone.
Skinner.
Great drummer. He's playing with Skinner now, too.
Yeah. That's a good pick, and that is, I believe, I have to look over our list. That's our second Damn Yankees pick of the night here, so.
Well, see, that's what I wanted to do until you said they couldn't be in the band
right.
at all. I was
you were going to pick all Damn Yankees?
Yeah, put them back together again, you know?
Hey, I love that stuff from back in the day. That would be a good band. If you're going to pick a band to put back together, might as well be that one. But that's a good pick right there.
I have it on authority from my number 2 pick that they will be back together at some point in the future.
They will be. Okay. All right. Well, we have that to look forward to. We'll go to Anthony Petrone here before we take a break, and then when we come back, we'll hit the rest of our picks here in rounds. The final pick of round 4 when we come back, and then rounds 5 and 6. We'll make this one the last one for right now. Anthony's got Tom Scholes, Jack Blades, Peter Frampton thus far. Team versatility so far here tonight.
I got another one that's versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be the second member from this band picked tonight.
Okay.
A band that's on tour, come back, had a long problems. Wonderful drummer. He can sing too. Roger Taylor from Queen.
Roger Taylor.
Ooh, good pick.
All right, so there's your drummer, and that gives you so you thus far only need a wild card and frontman yet to go here. As we look at the teams here, and I'd love to get Pat's thoughts here before we go to break here in this segment. We've got thus far the picks from Buck. He's got Les Claypool on bass, Kurt Hammett on guitar, Dave Grohl is the wild card. Anthony has Tom Scholes on wild card, Jack Blades on bass, Peter Frampton at guitar, Roger Taylor drums. Matt Petrone has Michael Anthony bass, Brian May guitar, Joe Perry wild card, Mike Cardilone drums. I, Rick Morris, have Geddy Lee bass, Steve Smith drums, Steve Vai guitar, Eric Johnson wild card. Paul Belfi has Joe Satriani guitar, Billy Sheehan bass, Ronnie James Dio frontman, and Carmine Apache drums. Samantha has Flea on bass, Neil Peart drums, Tom Morello guitar, Mike Shinoda wild card. Jason's team, Zach Wild wild card, Bootsy Collins bass, Herman Lee guitar, Chester Bennington frontman. And Tony with Team Early 90s, Northwest. Chris, but hey,
that's my attire.
I like that music, so I'm not putting it down. Chris Cornell frontman, Jerry Cantrell guitar, Taylor Hawkins drums, Robert DeLeo bass. And looking at this here, Pat, things are coming into focus a little bit more clearly than they were the last time we went to break here. Thoughts on how some of these teams are developing? We've got some themes here. We've got some eclectic mixes on different ones here. It's shaping up almost 8 different ways right about now.
Boy, it really is. I mean, that Bootsy-Zach combination is still kind of intriguing, but I'm really, I'll tell you what I'm really liking, though, is that Billy Sheehan and Joe Satriani and Dio. I think that's a killer combination.
Well, that was, I know you said going into the last break you were taken with the Satriani and Sheehan thing, so it's clearly just reinforcing what you thought.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and wait till you hear my next selection for one of my wild card picks, and I assure you that will put me over the top for winning yet another fantasy draft from Sports Talk Network and the FDH Lounge. Thank you.
You know, I love how he's so cocky, but if he makes a pick and he boosts himself up like this, and then he makes a pick and everybody goes boo.
Yeah. This thing ain't over yet. We got some things to say about
it. In fairness to me, I've been putting over the picks that I thought have been very good. I happen to think, Anthony, that your group is good. I think taking Tom Schultz was very forward thinking on your part, and a lot of people, you know, that's the problem with a lot of the music fans from today. They don't dig on the vibe that was back in the early, mid to late 70s, all the 70s, and in the early 80s. There was some phenomenal musicians and phenomenal music, and you know, the 90s just killed everything. I'm sorry, it just killed everything.
I got to agree with that. No two ways about that.
You know, Paul, I like what everybody's putting together. Everybody has something that could be a solid band, something that could be very, very good.
I want to follow up on this here for a second, what was said, because when we talk about versatility, I mean, somebody like Pat, you know, when you look at guys from different bands that he's played with, I mean, he's got a lot of different things going on. I haven't played with guys from Deep Purple and Kiss, Quiet Riot. Also the Metropolitan Opera, among others. So Pat, coming from your background, I want you to expand on what you just said about what Paul said here about the 90s and where things started to maybe go off the rails a little bit in some ways.
Yeah, I really think the whole, you know, advent of the grunge scene, I think, really took away a lot of the, one of the biggest changes, of course, in rock was, and not so much the hair band aspect, but really when you look at that metal scene, I mean, when you look at Yngwie Malmsteen, when you look at Randy Rhoads, you know, when you look at, I mean, that was a really true beginning of a whole era that a lot of people, you know, just completely lost today, especially the kids, you know, nowadays. Unfortunately, you know, but that's such an important core because especially if you look at somebody like Randy Rhoads who mixed, you know, classical with rock with metal, I mean, that was really an important scene. And then, boom, 90s come along and it just faded away.
There was a time, as you well know, that Randy Rhoads was likened to being the next Eddie Van Halen. That's how good Randy Rhoads was.
And you know,
and it's a shame that he was taken so young in life. It's just an absolute freaking tragedy. There are so many musicians that were taken way too early from the game that if we were to do a draft of all-timers, regardless if they were dead or alive, we would be here for hours. It's tragic. It really is. But as far as Randy Rhoads goes, I couldn't agree more with you. Couldn't agree more.
Randy Rhoads would have been my first pick if he would have been alive.
Right. Oh, mine too. Yeah, I would have. You know, he would have beat everybody. I think. No two ways.
I'd like to point out the pop, and coming from the youngest member of the FDH. When I know it's very popular for people to rip on the 90s music and grunge, but I'd have to say, though, grunge paid homage to its predecessors. Like, for example, punk rock music, classic rock. See, the thing is, and I'll have a couple of disagreements from these two next to me, but a lot of that 80s, they kind of abandoned, I believe. They they kind of abandoned what it was because it was more about the style. And when bands like Guns N' Roses came out, and when bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden, and those of the similar bands, it kind of revitalized rock and roll music. I understand the the killing yourself, doing the heroin and all that, but drugs have always been a part of music. And I think with grunge and even a little bit into the post-grunge, that it really should have revitalized music, but people were like, I think people got sick of the hair metal. I think because my mom, who is she's up there, she's in her late 40s and everything, and my dad, when it got to the 80s, and Leonard Skinner was leaving, and Aerosmith started going down a little bit until they came back in the 90s, but they kind of got sick of the hair metal, and they went to like talk radio and stopped listening to music. And I believe in the 90s, my mom went back to listening to 90s music because it is good. And as much as people will still rip on the 90s, oh, that grunge, Nirvana killed music. And the 90s had some bad music, let's face it. Every decade had its share of horrid music. But for a lot of people to rip on grunge for killing rock music, I'm no disrespect. I'm just going to say it's not very valid.
I want to ask... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I completely agree with Tony, though, because, you got bands like Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam. In my opinion, they completely revolutionized rock music. They, changed the whole scene.
And every band that's out nowadays, they tribute to Jimmy Page and Eddie Van Halen with their... But it's a lot of what... Because I tell this story every time, but I met the members of Theory of a Dead Man, who are like the biggest rock act out now, and I had an Alice in Chains shirt on, and they were doing like a signing and everything, and they were about done, and the lead singer Tyler Connolly looked at my shirt and said, "Dude, I will sign anything for anyone who's wearing a shirt with Alice in Chains on it." And I'm like, yeah, I saw people wearing the same shirt here, and he's like, there should be 10,000 people wearing that shirt. They're such a good band. So a lot of people attribute to the old days, but also guys like I picked Jerry Cantrell, paid homage to Jimmy Page, and even they did that Heart tribute, if you remember.
Well, as we go to break, I want to ask Pat here, try and look for some common ground between some of the things that have been said. Is it fair to say, because I find myself in sympathy with various points here, Pat, because I'm one of the only people probably that has fondness for music from some of the last couple of decades, albeit certain specific things from certain periods of time. Is it possible, this is the way that I kind of look at it here, that in the 80s some of the excesses came from pop music and from some of the stuff that was maybe a little bit too radio friendly in some ways here, versus in the 90s some of the excesses coming from grunge? That seems to be some of what you're talking about, if I'm hearing you right, that there was some stuff that really wasn't that melodic and that was just kind of not really paying much attention to that part of the game here. That's kind of how I see it. Pop in the 80s might have gone a little bit too far in places, grunge in the 90s.
Well, yeah, I think that, if you look at the 80s, definitely, a lot of the whole glam scene, I think that went a bit too far as visually. Stylistically, I think that, the 90s scene was... And I do have to give a lot of credit to them, because just in the way that the 80s did, as I mentioned, a lot of the guys in the 90s did create that whole grunge scene, and you have to give them credit no matter what. Just like even the thrash metal guys. I don't play any of that stuff myself, but I still have to give them a lot of credit, because it's still revolutionary. So, I think when the 90s came along, and of course, Nirvana and that whole thing came around, you got to give them a lot of credit. And but as far as the 90s, though, as far as the grunge scene, no, I think the only thing that was probably overdone was the whole drug situation, as somebody had mentioned earlier before. I think you see that whole thing going on, which was just such a shame.
Yeah, it was. That's the reason why some of the great musicians we've talked about, why they're not with us anymore. And that was I remember from back in the day that it was something where it was almost like a backlash against the whole 80s anti-drug thing. Just say no, and it became one of those kind of stupid cyclical things that I think we tend to go through here, where heroin's cool, man. There's nothing wrong with heroin.
Sincerely, 4 students from Westlake High School.
Yeah, exactly.
Sincerely, all of Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. I think we just kind of tend to have memories that are too short here. It's our first annual Fantasy Supergroup Draft. It is the 40th edition of the FDH Lounge, and the first time we're coming at you here on Wednesday nights here on the Sports Talk Network. This is, of course, the show where nothing is off topic, and it's a very special show here tonight. Normally in the last hour of the lounge, as it is presently constituted, it would be a show within a show. The FantasyDraftHelp.com Insider from 9 to 9:30. The Goon Squad talking hockey from 9:30 to 10. That'll be the case next week. We'll be back in our new Wednesday night format. But first night out of the box, we're already breaking format here. We've got our Fantasy Supergroup Draft. We've been giving you recaps as we're going along here. We'll keep doing that as we keep going here. We come back around now to Buck Woodward, who's going to be making some picks here. End of the 4th round, beginning of the 5th round. Buck Woodward, of course, from our Pro Wrestling Insider show here on the network, and, of course, from PWInsider.com. Buck's team thus far, he had the first pick out of the gate tonight, and he made a pick that some of the other people indicated out loud might well have been their first pick. Les Claypool on base. Base being a position where a number of us indicated we were probably less familiar, less comfortable making choices there than other positions. So Buck solidified his team right off the bat at a position where, again, some of us might have felt vulnerable making picks. He got an ace right away. He followed it up with Kurt Hammett on guitar, Dave Grohl on the wild card. So Buck still needs a wild card, a drummer, and a front man. So you have 2 picks here, Buck. You'll be taking 2 out of those 3 coming up.
I just want to say, Buck, before you pick, if you snake me, I'm driving up there tonight.
Okay.
It's a long ride. Yeah. It's a long...
Especially since you'll probably be going in the wrong direction. But,
that's true.
Here we go. My thought, when I first thought about doing the fantasy draft, I was thinking, classic rock. And then the more I thought about it, if I got snaked on a pick here or there, I needed guys who are versatile. That's why I picked Les Claypool, somebody who could be heavy and hard rock, but he could also be funky. Kirk Hammett, obviously the most experimental member of Metallica, one of my favorite bands. Dave Grohl, again, drumming, guitar playing, singing. He can do a poppy song, like with Foo Fighters. He can do a grunge song, obviously Nirvana. And for nobody that's heard the Probot Project, he can do some metal.
Oh, yeah.
So, my idea was to pick guys who could do different styles. Weren't necessarily locked in. Like Kirk Hammett could do a bluesy thing, or he could do straight ahead thrash. And I'm going to keep that going. And I got to be honest, I am stunned here. I had a list of 4 drummers, and I figured I would let everybody else pick, and then I would pick out of who was left. All 4 of my drummers are still available. So I'm going to have to pick one. I'll tell you who I didn't pick first. I'm not picking Danny Carey from Tool, who's on my list.
Okay.
I'm not picking Matt Sorum of Velvet Revolver, Guns N' Roses. And I'm not picking Charlie Benanti of Anthrax, who I think is tremendously underrated as a drummer. My drummer pick, which is my next pick, is going to be Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and soon-to-be Chickenfoot.
Very nice.
Okay.
So I've got Les Claypool on bass, I've got Kirk Hammett on guitar, I've got Dave Grohl doing whatever I decide he does, I've got Chad Smith on drums, and to kick off the next round, I'm going with my other wild card pick. And once again, I'm going with somebody who can do a dozen different things, a lot like Dave Grohl, and can fit into a heavy motif or a more alternative, easy for me to say, alternative motif. My next wild card pick, Trent Reznor.
Trent Reznor, okay.
Very nice. I was wondering when he was going to go.
We saw the prototype earlier on. Anthony taking Tom Scholes, looking for a guy who can fill a lot of different spots there. Trent Reznor doing the same. What's very interesting, Buck, because again, we weren't sure how much of this you'd be able to do with us here tonight. I'm glad you've been able to be on as much as you've been able to. You emailed me a list here this morning, and I said to you at the time, I had no idea how this was going to go, if there's going to be a lot of groupthink, or if you were going to need to go deeper, because you went 5 deep at every position and then 5 deep at wild card. It's striking to me how many of your guys are left at every position here. We all have been divergent in what we're doing.
Which makes it more difficult at times, because you start playing around, and I got to be honest, there were some people, and before I reveal my last pick later, I'll mention some of them. There were people who I thought about, but then as I look at my lineup, I go, you know what, so-and-so's a great musician, but he's not going to fit into the group I'm forming now. So you kind of, you switch allegiances a few times.
I've hit that 1,000 times in the past 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, you know what?
Came up with the date.
Yeah, Buck, you should see it. I mean, we've got. He was showing me the slips of paper. These are just covered in entire bands. He formed entire bands. Like, if I get this guy, I want this guy to go with him. It's amazing.
I'm pulling this out of my rear end. Half these guys weren't even on the list I gave you an hour ago.
I know. He's been like in a cave for the last couple weeks.
Believe me, I wish I could have done that.
I mean, this guy's been like Bill Belichick in the film room getting ready for this thing here.
Matt lives his life in a cave.
Oh, it is remarkable here. Trent Reznor, yeah, I mean, that's versatility right there. The one thing I will note, you at this point still don't have a front man yet. I don't have a front man. Most of us don't at this point here. And the thing I will say, Buck, is I'm sure you're running into this as you're looking at your team. It becomes a challenge because, again, the front man's going to be, in a big literal sense, the face of the band. But trying to meld somebody to what you've got there without them overpowering the combination you've put together to fit with it, I know I'm finding it really challenging.
Yeah, part of me is tempted not to even have a front man, but I know I have to pick one, and I've got a few guys in mind. So.
Yeah.
Instrumentals, that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, how about that? Oh, yeah, Pat will give you points for that one there. Absolutely. Well, here's the team. Trent Reznor was on Buck's team. Anthony, as I said earlier on, did very much the same thing, and it was a name that was evoked as being similar in many ways to Trent Reznor. Tom Scholes is his wild card, Jack Blades bass, Peter Frampton guitar, Roger Taylor drums. Anthony is another team that doesn't have a front man and doesn't have a second wild card at this point.
With my second wild card is where I'm going to go right now, and this name came to me today, so I guess what works is last minute because it seems to be working for Buck. But preparation, you can prepare all you want, but when it comes time to actually making it seem right, it's last minute. And I thought, what a great rhythm guitarist to have as a wild card. Nobody better than Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh, okay.
But see, for his band, that's a really good fit for the lineup he's doing.
That is. It's
that's an awesome fit.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, as you look at it here, it's
like a Ringo Starr all-star band.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, this is a band that could give retro a good name because you're looking at it. I mean, these guys are timeless. When you see what they can all do, it's interesting. I mean, you compare that band; it's got a completely different identity, say, than Tony's band, or a completely different identity than Jason's band, whatever that might be. Or I love you, Jason. It's an interesting thing. I can't wait to see Jason's last two picks. I know he's got a plan. I can't wait to see it materialize. But Anthony's got an identity all his own with what he's putting together here. Joe Walsh to go with that. Next up, Matt Patrone. He's got Michael Anthony on bass, Brian May on guitar, Joe Perry is his wild card, Michael Cardellone on drums.
I think I'm going to take my last wild card as well. And I was going to use Tom Scholes as my wild card because, like I said, he can do anything. But I would plan on like the keyboard kind of thing. But I'm going to go with Dennis DeYoung from Styx.
Nice.
Ooh.
For my wild card on that.
But I was wondering if he was going to even go in this draft.
What's that?
I was wondering if he was going to even go.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking long and hard. And
wild card or front man?
Wild card.
Wild card. You know what? Elaborate on that there, Sam. Again, with you being the FDH entertainment editor there, is it something where you thought that his skill set was maybe going to be a little bit overlooked by us here tonight?
Yeah, I thought the entire Styx band was going to be overlooked. Because, I've been having conversations with numerous friends about this draft coming up, and I would mention, Dennis DeYoung or even Tommy Shaw, and they'd be like, oh my God, I completely forgot about them. It's just like no one ever thinks of them.
Tommy Shaw and Dennis DeYoung and one other from Styx was also on my list of...
JT? JY, I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There were a couple of the ones there, really, that you could have gone with, so... Yeah. It's... Yeah, I mean, they definitely had some musicianship there, top to bottom. They're one of the bands that probably stands out in that way. A Comes now for my team. What I've got in my band thus far: Geddy Lee bass, Steve Smith drums, Steve Vai guitar, Eric Johnson wild card. And as I said before, a number of us didn't have frontmen yet at this point, myself among them, and I can't put it off any longer because I'm struggling to find somebody whose identity is not going to overpower the rest of the band here at this point. There's a lot of very charismatic frontmen. I count this guy as having some charisma myself, but I think he can play some different things here. I referenced before a couple of my favorite groups, Stone Temple Pilots being among them, but you look at them and you look at Velvet Revolver, and those were really kind of different entities here. I'm going to go with Scott Weiland as my front man because, and I'm going to, I guess this is sort of the rock and roll equivalent of taking, I don't know, what, a Plexico Burris perhaps with a pick here, and just hoping for the best, hoping it all goes well,
You had a pretty reliable lineup until that point.
Yeah, fingers crossed here, I mean, if he ends up back in rehab tomorrow, the whole band is, on the DL. But, right now, for what it's worth, I mean, I think a lot of people would tell you, you're looking at vocalists out there pound for pound, and I think he's more versatile than a lot of the other guys I was looking at here at this point. I've tried to build a band around versatility, and again, two of my favorite three groups, Rush and Stone Temple Pilots, I'm just getting off on the whole Geddy Lee, Scott Weiland thing, together at last in this band. So those are that was my pick there. We come now to Paul Belfi, who I know our judge, Pat, has indicated is a team he really likes. Joe Satriani guitar, Billy Sheehan bass, Ronnie James Dio frontman, Carmine Apache drums. Pat, let's just shovel the pressure on him here at this point. He can't blow it right now, can he? I mean, this is a team you're really liking thus far.
Yeah, and he says that he's going to come up with one that's going to blow us away. So I can't wait to hear what it's going to be.
I can sum it up for you in 2 words. My wild card pick is also a keyboard player, and he is John Lord from Deep Purple.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Pat like that one.
John Lord made keyboard playing cool for hard rock and heavy metal.
Yep.
Deep Purple what were innovators. People forget about Deep Purple. You forget Ian Pace, Ian Gillan on vocals, John Lord, Richie Blackmore was in there. Come on!
And still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't understand. But you know what? Neither is Kiss, and people can say what they want to say about Kiss, but Kiss deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That should be another topic for the FDH Lounge when they acts that are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that damn well should. Genesis, Rush.
Thank you.
Who? I'm sorry.
Boston.
What'd you say, Sam?
I said Genesis, thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Genesis, Def Leppard, Kiss. I mean, it's ridiculous, but yet, they'll put in freaking, I don't know, side projects before they put in real bands.
Madonna's in the Hall of Fame. Stupid John Mellencamp.
I don't have a problem with Madonna or John Mellencamp because they were leaders and they sold a ton of music in their era, and they're still relevant today. Madonna's tour right now is making some big-ass money.
But it's also what influenced music, and I don't think many people were influenced by Madonna.
Oh, really?
However,
I would think that Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, the list goes on and on, would disagree with you.
Did you completely miss the 90s?
By the way, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and the list goes on and on of female stars are making boatloads of cash. Oh, who's got the #1 album in the United States this week? I believe it's Britney Spears with over 500,000 units sold.
I agree with that, but that's a different genre than rock and roll. But however, Peter Frampton, not in the Hall of Fame.
And that's a travesty.
Yes.
Iron Maiden isn't in the Hall of Fame.
That sucks.
Yeah, Maiden isn't in the Hall of Fame.
Metallica is going into the Hall of Fame before Iron Maiden. That's messed up.
Yeah, now let's table this Hall of Fame talk for the next FDH Lounge because this could be a 3-hour show in and of itself, being that we are based in the city of rock and roll and the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We should get some people from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as guests on the FDH Lounge. We'll make sure that happens, but in a respectful way because they are soon to be advertising with us.
Oh, very nice.
Let's get Jen Wiener from Rolling Stone in here to try to
Jan Wenner, that freaking meat flute. Never mind. Yeah. Anyway.
And P.S. Interesting fact about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Out front is where Jason proposed to me.
Oh, really?
Really?
Well, that's kind of. Well, that kind of put a damper on the discussion, but anyway, no, I'll just tease it.
Was he playing Bootsy Collins or Zach Brown?
Anyway, back to more important things like my selection of John Lord. I believe John Lord is a perfect complement for my supergroup. I think it fits in with the vibe with Satriani, with Sheehan, with Dio, with Carmine Appice. John, it doesn't matter who my last pick is. It doesn't matter.
Rick Springfield.
But wait till you hear who I've got. And I was teasing when I said I was going to pick Rick Springfield as Mr. Irrelevant. I'm not doing that because I am not going to bastardize my supergroup. Every great band needs what, gentlemen? They need great songs, and I have got the songwriter that would fit with this group that will blow your mind away.
Well, and maybe this is the mark in me as I'm looking at this here, but you mentioned John Lord, you mentioned Deep Purple, maybe it's me being a mark. All I can picture is the Queen of Francine strutting around in the ring.
It's a good man right there,
Queen
Rick.
of Extreme, baby. Francine.
The Queen of Extreme, baby.
Exactly. Good old Francine.
Buck, let me ask you a question, and then I would like to ask our esteemed judge. Let me ask you first, Buck, your thoughts on my groups thus far.
I'm liking your group, however, I'm thinking you may have a rules violation here.
How so?
I believe Ronnie James Dio and John Lord were in Rainbow at the same time.
You know what?
Oh.
That's right.
No.
Really?
No.
They weren't?
Are you sure?
No, John Lord never played in, I was thinking of that too, actually. It's funny you mention that. No, John never played in Rainbow.
Okay.
Yeah, Rainbow was an offshoot of Deep Purple, but Rainbow had Richie Blackmore, Jolyn Turner, and
another friend of mine, Dave Rosenthal, actually had played, and also another friend of mine, Don Airy, played keyboards too.
Right.
And,
Pat, have you ever heard of a keyboard player by the name of Derek Hilland? He used to play for Whitesnake and Iron Butterfly.
What about him?
Have you've heard of a keyboard player named Derek Hilland?
Yes.
What'd you think of him?
I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, he's tremendous.
He's awesome. Actually, John Lord played in Whitesnake in the original version after Coverdale, after David Coverdale left Deep Purple.
That's correct. Derek Hilland, by the way, gentlemen, along with a bass player who I'm sure Pat knows very well, by reputation at least, by the name of Matt Bissonette, one of the most underrated musicians walking the planet Earth and an in-demand studio musician, as is his brother, and Buck will know his brother, former David Lee Roth Band drummer Greg Bissonette, another highly sought-after studio musician, underrated drummer to the max. Matt Bissonette and Derek Hilland play with Rick Springfield. That's all I need to say.
It comes around full circle.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
exactly. By the way, fair warning to Paul Belfi, because I just came up with a wild card. I am swinging from the heels in the last round here with my wild card pick. I may yet salvage this thing here when you look at the versatility I'm about to add. But in the meantime, we got Samantha coming up here. Flea, Neil Peart, Tom Morello, Mike Shinoda in the band thus far. You still need a front man, Sam, and you still need another wild card.
All right, I'm going to wait on my last wild card because it's going to take some explanation, and no one knows who she is. But it'll make perfect sense later.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with my front man, and I've been debating between a couple people, trying to figure out who's going to fit the best or whatever. And I've, been trying to get Jason's opinion, but he's really no help in this situation. But looking at my team, I need someone, kind of want someone who sings more than screams, because my taste tends to run more towards the metal side. But I think I am going to go with Steven Tyler.
Ooh.
If I would have went that way, that would have been a snake.
You know what? And I had somebody say to me recently here that when you think front man, when you think the charisma, I don't remember who made that point to me when we were talking about this, but I had somebody say that and make that point. I thought in my head that was a very good point here. Let's ask the pro out of the bunch here, Pat. I mean, that's when you're thinking front man, when you're thinking somebody to come in there and just lead and have that kind of charisma on stage. It's pretty hard to top that guy, isn't it?
I don't think you can. How can you? definitely don't think. But I love that combination too of Flea and Neil Peart. I'd love to hear that. That's pretty strong combination.
That is. Well, and a very interesting hint there from Pat. Okay, so Samantha's probably top tier as we're sitting here right now.
The only thing I want to say about that pick, Sam, is I don't know how Mike Shinoda and Steven Tyler would actually fit.
You know what? I'm really intrigued, though.
It's intriguing, but I don't know.
Well, if you think Mike Shinoda is probably going to keep his mouth shut the whole time and just play the piano.
Yeah, but you know what? And that's the whole thing here, too, that with these interchangeable pieces, like, for example, the guy I'm going to take with my wild card in the last round, I can't say that I know he's going to play every song with this group here, but it's the ability to deploy somebody. And if you wanted to put Shinoda in there in any kind of a way like that, you could. Or you could have him on the instrumentals. So,
and plus with Steven Tyler, you get the harmonica, too.
True.
That's true. That's true. How about the harmonica with Shinoda rapping over that? That would be kind of
that's pretty hot right there.
That would be badass. There's all kinds of things you could do. All right, Jason's group here. Like I said, I cannot wait to see the plan continue to come together here. Zach Wilde on a wild card, Bootsy Collins on bass, Herman Lee on guitar, Chester Bennington the front man, and as we said, any of the combinations specifically are really intriguing here. Zach Wilde, Bootsy Collins is what everybody zeroes in on, but how about Bootsy Collins, Chester Bennington? How about a shredder like Herman Lee with Bootsy Collins? You know, there's all kinds of things here. Jason, let's hear your fifth pick.
Well, the beauty of this is Bootsy Collins is not the only sort of Sesame Street, one of these does not belong situation. There will be a pick later that adds a different flavor along the same lines of thinking as Bootsy Collins. But if you look at the rest of it, with the exception of Zach Wilde, really, I'm looking for speed, complexity, and degree of difficulty, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go with one that I don't think anybody on the panel really listens to on their own time. I doubt that anybody has this CD in their car. But I'm going to go with drummer Joey Jordison from Slipknot, based on degree of difficulty and speed. And we have a musical selection ready if you'd like.
You know what? Talk about that here, Pat. You know, as the pro, as a drummer, no less here. Talk about that. I thought I heard of a note of appreciation from you there.
Yeah, that would be. I can imagine Zach Wilde with Joey. That would just be brutal.
You know what? That's great. See, my man did have a plan here. Jason was working a plan here the whole way, and there it is. Joey Jordison pairing up with Zach Wilde. I can't believe we're at the point now of the last two picks of Tony's team. Tony thus far, and we talked about this before, coherent teams, coherent bands here, themes. Tony's going for a certain place in time and a certain place in geography here. Chris Cornell, frontman. Jerry Cantrell, guitar. Taylor Hawkins, drums. Robert DeLeo, bass. Thus far here, you have a very coherent, defined team here. 2 wild cards yet to go.
Well, Chris Cornell, great voice in music. He's been around for 20-plus years. His voice is getting a little shot. Maybe the cigarettes and alcohol probably didn't help. But
I don't know. He was really good on the Project Revolution tour I saw this summer.
Oh, yeah, he was good. I saw him a year ago and just did excellent. But his voice doesn't sound completely the same as it was during maybe Black Hole Sun when that came out. But so I'm going to have someone else compliment him as a backup singer. I'm going with Kevin Martin from Candlebox.
Ooh.
Kevin Martin.
That's a nice combination.
A gentleman who will be a guest on the On Tour Music Show in the next few weeks.
Really? Okay.
And that's not why. But
that is a very interesting.
Sure, it's not.
Kevin Martin. See, and when you were saying that you were going to go for somebody very similar there, I was thinking Michael McDonald. So you swerved me.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I got swerved on that one there. So, all right, Kevin Martin.
That's my wild
card. The pick on wild card. Still one more wild card to go.
Well, I'm going with a band that is accredited as the first grunge band. I am going with a guitarist. He's going to be my rhythm guitarist. I am going with Joey Santiago from the Pixies.
Ooh. Joey Santiago. All right, that's old school as far as that goes with the genre there. So, Joey Santiago rounds it out here. And just to recap, the team that we have for Tony, now reading it for the first time in its complete nature here. Chris Cornell, frontman. Jerry Cantrell, guitar. Taylor Hawkins, drums. Robert DeLeo, bass. Kevin Martin, wild card. Joey Santiago, wild card. And a tight team, tight unit, again, as far as what Tony's trying to accomplish with this band, what he's trying to evoke, is easier to see than maybe just about any other team aside from possibly Anthony. But even Anthony's team, while it's got kind of a general old school type of vibe, Tony's probably has, I think many of us, if not all of us, would agree, it's probably the most coherent in terms of genre. So he's putting all his chips on that one there. He's putting everything, all his chips on red here, so to speak, and we'll see how that works for him. Got Jason coming up here now. Zach Wild, wild card. Bootsy Collins, bass. Herman Lee, guitar. Chester Bennington, frontman. Joey Jordanson, drum. And it's a team here where the last pick and Wild that ended up getting put over pretty strong here by Pat. Pat ended up being impressed with that. So let's see if you can build on that with your final round pick here, Jason.
Well, as I said on the last go around here, we're looking at complexity, degree of difficulty, and all that. Then you throw in Bootsy Collins, which I know a lot of people aren't too crazy about, putting sort of a funk bass line into this whole approach. And I can't, even if I gave you the name of the person, I don't think anybody would know what it is. So we'll give you a little musical hint first. But keep in mind, if you thought Bootsy was odd, this one's really going to blow you away.
You firing up the beatbox?
He's playing a Casio?
Oh, I know that guy! Is he sitting there with a keyboard going dong, dong?
Okay, for those of you who don't know, that gentleman's name is Scruffy Wallace. He is the bagpipe player for the Dropkick Murphys.
Oh.
They just broke up.
I would say the guy who invented Pong, but that's okay.
Hey, Jason, for that joke, all we heard was dong, dong, dong. We didn't really hear it. So
2 points for the judge here. Scruffy Wallace, okay, a wild card pick here. And I think we know what our most eclectic band of the evening is here, but again, from the now defunct Dropkick Murphys. So we've got that as the selection here. Now comes to Samantha. She's got thus far Flea on bass, Neil Peart drums, Tom Morello guitar, Mike Shinoda wild card, Steven Tyler frontman.
All right, I'm gonna kind of take after Jason here with my last wild card pick. You guys probably aren't going to know who she is, but she is a violinist, and she's on tour with Josh Groban actually as his violin soloist. But I have a little clip of her playing a song that I hope you'll recognize if you can hear it. So hang on.
Okay.
I hope you can hear that because it is Cashmere on the violin.
I have heard that before.
I was going to say, that was bringing back bad memories of food poisoning in an Italian restaurant. But
Either that or it was Devil Went Down to Georgia.
I thought it was Igor from Young Frankenstein. So.
Yeah. See?
I know, it's kind of hard to hear it over the thing, but go look up this one. Her name is Lucia Micarelli. Definitely go look her up because she does some pretty amazing things with violin. She plays Cashmere on the one DVD I have, and she also does Bohemian Rhapsody on the violin.
Sweet.
Really? Okay.
I want to hear how you pronounce her name.
Look her up because not only does she do like the kind of rock stuff, but she's also very classically trained and can play anything you can come up with. You throw a song at her, she can probably play it on the violin.
Very interesting. And you know what? And again, when it comes to versatility, when it comes to that kind of stuff here, certainly our judge tonight, Pat Gesualdo, certainly embodies that with his body of work over the years here. Pat, we just got 2 picks right out of left field here. These last 2 ones, these wild cards. Just talk about your thoughts on that. I know you've played with all kinds of different guys here. Talk about those last 2.
I think they're just phenomenal, and I'd have to say they're absolutely tied because they're so great combinations. I wouldn't know which one to pick over the other. The versatility-wise, I think it's just awesome and just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's they were certainly very creative. I mean, and mine when I got coming up, and I'm on deck. I'm the one after this as far as the pick that my final pick of the evening here.
I have Paul's pick.
Well, I know, but I'm after Paul, who's up with the next one here. But mine is eclectic, but it's way. I mean, it's practically a household name compared to the last 2 that we heard here.
Yeah.
I think anything probably would be compared to those. So props for the creativity. Before we go to Matt, who I know has the next pick that Paul Belfi left with him here, I've been asked to toss it now to Buck Woodward, who is going to explain, and asked via instant messaging. This isn't voices in my head, but I got an IM here from Buck. He says that Paul has cheated, shouldn't be allowed to make his next pick here. So, Buck, please elaborate.
Something struck me as fishy about Paul's lineup. There was a group in 1974 called Ashton and Lord, featuring John Lord.
Yeah.
Guess who the drummer was for that group?
Ian Pace.
What? Let's see.
What did Pat say?
It was Ian Pace.
No, it was Carmine.
Oh, Carmine was in there too?
Yep, he played on the first of the Big Bands album.
Ricky,
I
please
didn't
bring
know
up
that.
Wikipedia.
I am. I'm looking for Ashton Lord on Wikipedia. That was my first. Hard to believe it's not page 1 on Google for them. That is. Don't even tell me they don't even have a Wikipedia page, but that is.
Here, wait a minute. Here, I'll send you the link because I looked it up.
Well,
I hate to rain on the raining of the parade here, but I have a feeling that if we told Mr. Paul Belfi that he was in violation and his punishment is to not pick a songwriter at this point, I really don't think he's going to be too upset.
I just do it to bust Paul's stones. So.
Well, actually, I'll okay. You sent me the link here, and I'm gonna look at this. But again, I believe we had confirmation from Pat here, and as far as I'm concerned, our esteemed judge, with everything that he's done in the business and knows about, that's good enough for me. So, Pat, this is confirmed that 2 of these guys have been in a band together.
Yeah. Which one? With Carmine, you mean?
Yeah. Carmine and John Lord. Is that?
That honestly, I don't know.
Okay. I'm looking to see here. Whereabouts am I supposed to be looking on this page here?
Scroll down to where it says March 1974.
March 1974. Gotcha. Ashton and Lord. Let's see. John Lord is mentioned there. Carmine. Yeah. I don't know the spelling of the name that Paul gave me, but I'm assuming that is the same guy. APP.
I think it's APPICE.
Okay. Well, we have confirmation. Well, if he were here,
I scored Paul. Yeah.
That's the second time he's cheated.
If he were here, I'd give him another shot on this, but he left the building. Well, I'll tell you what.
Maybe that's why he left. He knew this.
Okay, that might well. Well, I know. In fairness to him, he also was sick. Okay, so this is now exhibition baseball, if you will. Let's hear his pick, but we can't include him in here because of the violation of the rules that was uncovered.
Okay. Well, he informed me that he had to leave because his grandmother was sick, or his mother, or whoever. He had to leave.
Oh, see, now I feel bad.
But that's what he told me. I don't know. I think it's more along the lines that he didn't want to give Anthony the $60 he owes him.
No. He was calling in gay today. Remember?
Oh,
there you go.
All right. Nice.
But he gave me 3 names to pick from, and then as he was walking out, he said he wanted his last wild card to be Sammy Hagar. The other 2 names he gave me, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, for his songwriters. But he said Sammy Hagar on his way out the door.
Sammy Hagar. the pick here.
It doesn't much matter because
it don't much matter now.
I guess he's disqualified. So I mean, what we could do, and this would be nice little salt in the wounds here. We can see if he would have won. Let's say we can basically let's have it ranked 1 through 8 by Pat at the end here, knowing that Belfies doesn't count. And part of me is rooting for him to come in first now, in as much as he has to. He's getting black flagged. So the part of me that's hardened and bitter would kind of like that. The next pick here comes to me, and I'm kind of looking along the same lines as Sam and Jason as far as going outside the box here in my last pick, but it's in a different way, and as I said, it's somebody who is, I mean, this guy's a friggin' celebrity compared to who they took. I mean, I'm not putting down the musicianship of them, not at all, but it's a thing where
sure sounds like it.
It's not an obscure pick. It's you don't have to be like Mr. Hardcore or Mrs. Hardcore Music to know who this is. I've got thus far Geddy Lee, Steve Smith, Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Scott Weiland. I've tried to go for things where I feel like I could go in any number of different directions here. This last guy that I'm adding to the band here, maybe you wouldn't use him on all of the songs, but I like the ability to use him at least on some of the songs. On the keyboard, if you're looking at keyboard, synth, whatever, I'm kind of a sucker for some good jazz pop while I'm at it. I'm going to say Donald Fagen for my last pick. And I don't know how it's going to be judged to fit in with the rest of the band here. At the very least, I think everybody would have to admit the pieces themselves are very impressive when you look at the musicianship of this group top to bottom.
Extremely.
Thank you. I'll submit myself to your judgment when we're all done, Pat, as far as the meshing of it. But, yeah, I mean, on paper, I'm liking it. We'll see what your judgment is at the end. We come now to Matt Patrone. We're only 3 picks from the end here. Michael Anthony, Brian May, Joe Perry, Mike Cardellone, and Dennis DeYoung thus far. As I look at this, you got everything but a front man, Matt.
Yep, and this is the one I was actually didn't think he would go, and I kind of really knew he wouldn't. But I agonized over different names, and the range of his voice. I've heard him do Zeppelin songs. I've heard him do Queen songs. I'm going with Joe Elliott from Def Leppard.
Okay, Joe Elliott, and that is that's a pick right there, as you said, a guy with some versatility to him, and I think that's what you look for in this round. You know, somebody who is not going to overpower the rest of what you put together, but hopefully complement it. So there's your front man in Joe Elliott, and next we come to Anthony, who's got Tom Scholz on wild card, Jack Blades bass, Peter Frampton guitar, Roger Taylor drums, and Joe Walsh wild card. So you also need a front man, Anthony.
Well, you know, when putting this band together, the way I like it is because 3 of them can be frontmen and have been frontmen in their own right. So coming up with a frontman to fit this band is definitely going to be a hard one. So I'm coming up with a voice that maybe not necessarily works well, but it fits, and it's a phenomenal voice. I'm going to go ahead and go with Steve Perry.
Steve Perry, okay.
That actually makes a lot of sense for that lineup.
Yeah.
It does. You know, you talked about that before, Buck, with that sort of Ringo Starr, All-Stars kind of vibe that he's got there. You could see Steve Perry fitting in with that.
Definitely.
I'm actually surprised that Steve Perry didn't go sooner.
Me
So
too.
am I.
Me too. I was worried for a while.
Yeah. You know, there's any number of guys, and there's going to be a lot of impressive musicians that aren't even going to get drafted. We'll run through some of those when we get done here. Buck has what they would call in the NFL draft the Mr. Irrelevant pick, although there are no irrelevant picks in our music draft here tonight. But the 48th one to go off the board will join a band that includes Les Claypool on bass, Kurt Hammett guitar, Dave Grohl wild card, Chad Smith drums, Trent Reznor wild card.
I need a judge's clarification for my last pick.
Uh-oh.
Because I have 2 names here.
Okay.
And if one of them doesn't go because of the rules, then I got the other one. But can I include someone who had an album produced by Trent Reznor?
I would say yes, because Trent Reznor's not in the band. He's not in the band with Trent Reznor.
I would concur with that. Yeah, produced doesn't equal band. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think we're all in accord on that, Buck. So go with your first pick.
Okay, in that case, my front man with Les Claypool, Kirk Hammett, Dave Grohl, Chad Smith, and Trent Reznor. You need a big voice to stand out in a group like this. So I'm going with Rob Halford as my front man.
Ding the
Wow.
bell.
Rob Halford. That Rob Halford to get drafted on today of all days. It is kind of amazing. It does kind of fit with the holiday theme of the day, but it's really. It's really an interesting.
He's off today.
Yeah, very nice.
He doesn't work today.
Very nice. Yeah, exactly. He took the day off personally, although he got drafted. So some of the ones on my list that didn't get drafted here tonight, very interesting. Alex Lifeson, who I'm biased, but I think is a supremely underrated guitarist, undrafted. Slash, Keith Richards, Billy Gibbons, Eric Clapton, Angus Young, George Lynch, all undrafted. Bass players, Steve Harris,
Carlos Santana.
Yeah, Carlos Santana.
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen's a shock. You know what? He wasn't even on my list because I thought he'd go way before I would get a chance to take him. That's one of the biggest surprises of the night. Bass, Steve Harris, Geezer Butler, Gene Simmons, Jack Bruce, Bill Wyman. Undrafted. Frontman.
Nikki Sixx, never won for bass either.
Nikki Sixx, that's another one there. For frontmen, I think melding somebody to your band, I think, is why some of these guys didn't go. The sense of how they would fit to a band here. The diverse list of names that I had here: Meatloaf, Michael McDonald, James Hetfield, Robert Plant, Bruce Dickinson, David Coverdale, David Lee Roth. Diamond Dave, undrafted. Amazing.
I'm surprised there weren't any females drafted, like Stevie Nicks or Pat Benatar.
I thought about Stevie Nicks, but then I decided to go with the heavier direction. If I go more classic rock, I was thinking Stevie Nicks.
I was thinking about Pat Benatar, but then,
I thought about someone from L7, but what are you gonna do?
I'm really surprised that we don't see him on here. That Anthony Kiedis didn't go.
Yeah, Anthony Kiedis didn't go, and
nobody from Kiss.
Anthony Kiedis also someone who is extremely overrated.
I
agree with that.
I thought about Amy Mann, but that's just me being a mark for the Hold Your Fire album right there that she had the guest vocals on. Drums, Ginger Baker.
Debbie Harry didn't go?
No, Debbie Harry didn't go. Drums, Ginger Baker, Stuart Copeland, Lars Ulrich, Alex Van Halen, Charlie Watts, all undrafted from there. So, yeah, a lot of ones that were really kind of out there. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to...
Nobody picked Prince.
Nobody took Prince, yeah. Well, you know what? Again, that's the whole thing of how do you meld him to a group and not have him overpower. I think.
Meld him with Bootsy Collins.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I did think about it.
Paul was telling me
before we hand this over to the mercy of the judge, I want to say one real quick thing here.
You're like pleading with the governor for clemency right now, aren't you?
A little bit. But, as I look across the board here, there's a huge representation of, there's some hair bands, there's some members of bands that are primarily, or at least made famous by crappy ballads, and I'm not trying to say that they're not worthy of being on this list. And last, I'd like to quote Justin Long from the fourth Die Hard movie, just because it's old doesn't mean it's classic. I would just like to say that a lot of these guys would get smoked if there was any sort of direct competition. Yeah. I'm not saying for me personally, I'm just saying there are some owners in this draft who have some individuals that are farly more superior than others, and I won't name any names, but they're very close together on the list of draft order.
Okay.
Well, thank you for praising my band like that. I appreciate it.
No, Buck's team is actually in my top two, if I was to get that specific.
I just want to point out, I'm not that bad a guy, and if I knew Paul's grandmother was sick, I would not have tried to get him disqualified.
Well, wait a minute.
Buck's trying to play for his personality right now.
At this point, number one, knowing that his mom was sick and knowing that his grandmother passed away, I'm going to assume he meant his mom. Otherwise, we're getting into an Epstein's mom kind of a thing right here as far as excuses go. So I'm going to assume that it's his mom and that it's legitimate. Let's run through the bands one more time here. Buck has Les Claypool, Kurt Hammett, Dave Grohl, Chad Smith, Trent Reznor, Rob Halford, Anthony, with Tom Scholz, Jack Blades, Peter Frampton, Roger Taylor, Joe Walsh, Steve Perry. Matt has Michael Anthony, Brian May, Joe Perry, Mike Cardellone, Dennis DeYoung, Joe Elliott. I, Rick Morris, have Geddy Lee, Steve Smith, Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Scott Weiland, Donald Fagen. Paul Belfi, with his disqualified team of Joe Satriani, Billy Sheehan, Ronnie James Dio, Carmine Appice, John Lord, Sammy Hagar. Samantha with Flea, Neil Peart, Tom Morello, Mike Shinoda, Steven Tyler, and Lucia Machiavelli. Jason. Lucia Machiavelli.
Get it right, Rick.
All right.
Violent Rick.
I know. How can I mangle that pronunciation? I mean, it's practically John Smith. You know.
Stay with me. It's Lucia Machiavelli.
Okay. Is it
not that important?
Is it Machiavelli like the rap guy?
No, there's no V. It's an R.
Oh, all right. Jason with Zach Wilde, Bootsy Collins, Herman Lee, Chester Bennington, Joey Jordanson, and Scruffy Wallace. Tony with Chris.
I hear you laughing. Trying not to laugh get that out.
I'm not.
No, that's me laughing.
I think you heard Anthony is failing to keep from laughing, not me. I'm being a straight man here. Tony with Chris Cornell, Jerry Cantrell, Taylor Hawkins, Robert DeLeo, Kevin Martin, and Joey Santiago, Team Flannel. So as we look at this here, I'm going to leave this up to Pat here. We can either take a 5-minute break here if you want to take a minute here and slot these, or I know you've been thinking about this as we go along. Pat, it's up to you. What's the easiest for you? Can you slot these on the fly, or do you need a minute here?
It's up to you guys, whatever you need to do.
We're good either way. I just want to make it convenient on you. If you feel like you can go 1 through 8, and I guess we would start off at number 8 and work our way up to the champ. If you're ready to do that, we can. I don't want to rush you if you need another minute.
No, I think I'm ready.
All righty then. All right, let's get to it. And drum roll, please, here. Number 8, the number 8 selection in tonight's draft here. And again, let's give the Little League proviso. There are no losers in this draft here. There's just, higher grades of winners here, perhaps. But trying to be a humanitarian in advance. All right, number 8.
Way to be PC.
Yes, exactly. I can't do PC very well. But number 8 pick here, according to our judge here, Pat Gesualdo, and we're going to talk a little bit more here before the end of the program here. www.dadprogram.org, Drums and Disabilities. We're going to talk a little bit about Pat's work as an activist, as well as his strong background as a musician. And it is that background as a musician, the variety of Pat's experiences, the guys that he's played with in all walks of life here, that is basically forming as the background. It is the skeleton, basically, of what he's basing the judgments off of here tonight. So without any further ado, to the professional, Pat Gesualdo. Pat, take it away with number 8.
Okay, number 8. Okay, let me just go over the names one more time. We have Buck,
yes.
Right? Go ahead, Anthony.
Yes.
Right? Who's next?
Matt was 3rd.
Matt, right?
Rick, I was 4th.
Yeah.
Paul 5th.
Yeah.
Samantha 6th.
Yeah.
Jason 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony 8th.
Tony, right? Okay, yep, that's what I have. Okay, just double checking everything. All right, I'm looking at my paper here. Number 8, I would say would have to be Matt.
Okay. All right. That wasn't entirely the name I was expecting to hear, but that's it's interesting. It's got to be tough.
As far as last place, right?
He was the 3rd guy here. The band Matt had Michael Anthony, Brian May, Joe Perry, Mike Cardellone, Dennis DeYoung, Joe Elliott.
Yeah, so we're going from last place to first place?
Yes.
Okay.
Working our way up.
Last place, I'd have to say Matt.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, buddy.
Hey, and I know it's got to be tough for you slotting these here, Pat, because we all did a lot of research on this. Again, the thing that's a little bit of a stab. I don't think anybody worked harder than Matt, with the possible exception of Anthony. So that makes me feel guilty knowing that I came in ahead of him.
So wait, this
and just remember that I'm going on, I guess, my personal feelings on the musicians and the styles.
Oh, sure.
And I guess we have to say that, and makes this a little bit harder, is that I guess Paul is out of contention now, isn't he?
So it means it makes it 7.
Yeah,
well, you know what? Right?
That's true. I mean, wherever Paul is, it's with an asterisk, because at this point it doesn't count. So yeah, so technically Matt is 7th because he was disqualified. If Belfie was in, he would be 8th.
Okay.
So that's his band. So we'll take Paul sort of like as an exhibition game wherever he would get slotted in. So we start out with Matt in 8th and work our way up from there.
Okay, 8. I'd have to say Tony would be 7.
Okay.
Okay. Sixth place would be Buck.
Okay.
What? All right. It's because I screwed Paul, isn't it? I knew
it. Let's see.
You know what? I know you liked a couple of the foundation guys in Buck's band, so I'm sitting here going, this must have been tough for you to slot these. This had to be very tough for you.
Well, especially with that Chad Smith deal, that was a good call. And Les, I think that's a great combination too.
Yeah. Oh God, that's So I'm looking at this here. I mean, some of the rest of us above that are probably separated by slivers at this point.
It's tough.
All right.
Okay. Speaking of which, let's see. Jason would be fifth.
Okay.
Well, see, now I'm really depressed. Jason finished ahead of me.
Now, he vaulted a couple places with the drum pick, didn't he, there? Because I know that got your attention. I mean, that probably saved him from a much worse fate, did it not?
That's true.
Okay.
That is true.
Okay. I kind of pieced that together from listening to you over the course of the night. Okay. All right. I'm in the first division. I'm feeling okay about that at least. All right.
Let's see. Fifth. Okay, we are at fourth, right?
Yeah.
Fourth would have to be... Oh, man, that's hard. Fourth would have to be Anthony.
Okay. All right. Anthony is in fourth, which, again, in actuality is third, because wherever Belfie comes in, it's just kind of... And obviously he's going to place very good, so it's kind of like a stab wherever he comes in, because like, nah, you would have been first. But, well, we don't know that at this point, but... So everybody's basically one spot higher. But, yeah, I mean, if we include Belfie in it for these purposes, Anthony would be fourth. So at this point, I mean, the only names not yet called, myself, Paul, and Samantha, and I probably just jinxed myself right there.
Let's see. Okay.
Actually, you know what? Again, this is for the win, actually, between Samantha and myself, in as much as Paul's been disqualified. So, I mean, whatever...
Unless Paul's his number 3 pick.
Well, that's true. That's true. But assuming that it's not Paul for the next one here, we're going to know who our winner is.
It would have to be... who's left? Let me see.
It's Rick, Paul, Samantha at this point.
Yeah, Rick, Paul, and Samantha, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Rick. I would have to say Rick.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, I knew it was too good to be true. All right. So there I am at this point. The only question yet to be answered is, would Paul Belfie have won this had he not made a disqualifying pick, or would it have been Samantha in any case here? So.
Well, again, based on my personal taste, I would have to say Paul is number 1, and Sam is number 2. But now it has to be Sam is number 1.
All right, so
Paul would have won if we didn't screw him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
And he would have had his own law firm.
Oh yeah.
You're welcome, Samantha.
Oh. And you know what? And again, at this point, again, when I got down to the top 3 and knowing that Belfie was ineligible, I mean, from a business point of view, I couldn't go wrong. Either I win this thing or my entertainment editor wins it. And the person I pronounced as our favorite going into the event did, and she did win it, proving again why she is the entertainment editor for FDH, Samantha Jones. Samantha, take a bow, talk about your band.
I just tried to pull Flea a little bit from everywhere, I love Flea, listening to his... I've listened to a few of his bass solos, and they're just insane. Neil Peart, probably, arguably, the best drummer of all time. Tom Morello, some of his stuff that he does on guitar is just really interesting. Like, half the time you wouldn't even tell it's the guitar. Mike Shinoda, I'm horribly biased because Linkin Park is my favorite band. But he is extremely versatile. Steven Tyler... legend right there. And then my last pick, Lucia Micarelli, she's just can play so many different styles on a very classical instrument.
And that was kind of a theme of the last round there, between what you tried to do, what Jason tried to do with Scruffy, what I tried to do with Donald Fagen, with trying to paste a different element on there. And that was a common thread in the last round, Pat. Just, we were all looking for one more element that we could kind of paste onto this thing. Those of us that didn't need front
and
men.
You know what? If I wouldn't have taken Steven Tyler and had the harmonica with him, I would have taken John Popper.
Ooh, that would have been interesting.
Steven Tyler's a better pick.
Yeah, I agree. But I tell you, it was Sam. It was her. The Flea Neil Peart combination, I think, is great with the violin. Is just, I think, phenomenal. But Donald Fagen mix in there too is just, I think, great.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that, because I was swinging for the fences with that one there, Pat. So, I mean, you look at it in a sense, I mean, anything that he did, either his solo stuff or Steely Dan, is not necessarily anything you would think of along the lines of the other guys I got. Then again, I'm looking at it like, okay, Steve Smith's now doing jazz, so, you don't have to use Donald Fagen on all of the songs. You could try and design some to take more advantage of his kind of stuff. I mean, as far as me finishing what was de facto second, with Belfie being out of this thing here, did the Fagen thing help move me up the ladder any?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Oh, totally. And I'll tell you, I thought it was going to be like a Bootsy mix with, like, what do I want to say? Like maybe a Steve Vai, with another kind of maybe jazz drummer, or a fusion drummer, funk drummer, but with the Chad Smith. I thought that would have been a killer combination. Bootsy and Chad.
Oh wow, yeah.
So me and Jason need to get together.
Hey, is this a league where we can do trades? Can we refashion the rosters? So thanks to everybody that was involved in the draft tonight. Our judge, Pat Gesualdo, certainly among others here. Pat Gesualdo doing a great job as a judge here tonight. We appreciate it. Thanks to everybody. As always at the end, yes, Jeff Neal also. Yes, he was with us in the first hour as well, guest judging at that point in time. So as always at the end of the show, we send our love to the baseball angel. We'll catch you next week. Show number 41, episode 41 of the FDH Lounge.